All right, welcome back to the Tanner Vance Show. Settle down, everybody. Settle down. I've been away for a minute. I've been busy with moving. I made a move recently, so that's awesome. So I feel a little out of it starting this up all again, but I'm getting back to it anyway. So I came back down, or I moved down here to Laramie, Wyoming. And to get this started, I thought I'd bring on my good friend Cooper, who lives down here. He was in the first episode for a little bit, but anyways, he agreed to help me shake the cobwebs off with getting this back and going and all that. But we talked about moving, making friends, virtual reality. At the end there, we got some religious talks, but it was a good time, and it definitely took a minute for me to feel like I was back in it, but I got there, and I feel a lot more confident doing it again. So I'm back anyways. So enjoy the episode, and of course there'll be more coming and all that. And I wanted to get some other projects started. I'll make mention of those projects as they kind of come along. But anyways, in the meantime, enjoy this episode of the Tanner Vance Show. Welcome, Cooper Karp.
Is this the first time that you've lived with Sid?
Technically, no. There was at one point, I think it was like after his freshman year at UW, he came back up to Newcastle, and then he, just as he was there for the summer, me and my sister were. There was this house that my grandma owned, but she didn't live there. She had moved to another town, but she still technically owned this house. So we just moved in there and lived there for a little while.
Okay, I know the house you're talking about.
Oh, do you?
I think so.
Were you there, or do you just know which one?
No, I think I went there one time.
Oh, yeah. You did.
Yeah, just out of my mind, dude. Out of my mind.
Yeah, you just fucking showed up on the... Yeah, you showed up, and you were all... I don't remember what you were all fucked up on, but you were out of your mind. Yep.
Yeah, dude, we were so bad. It was cough medicine, bro. I mean,
I was pretty sure that's what it was, but I wasn't gonna be the first one to say it out loud.
I know
it was heroin, right? No. Oh,
much worse, bro. It was cough medicine.
Yeah, yeah, that was because that was even before you and I were like as good of friends as we became later. At that point, it was just like I had like spoken to you, and I knew our mutual friend who was equally fucked up.
Yep. Yeah. I think maybe we even had a class together before that happened. I don't know. I remember it was my freshman year that I took the Intro to Research and Design class with Mr. Scribner.
Oh yeah. And
Yeah.
then I was just in there like interning, but I didn't really do anything other than just sit there and like participate in talks.
Yeah.
Which it wasn't even like class talks. It was just like our table got going talking about, like, I remember talking about, wasn't there one that was like post-apocalyptic? Like what we would use for currency. I don't know why that one is just one that stuck out to me. Dude, I know there's a lot of weird stuff.
Please, do you remember anything else about that conversation? Because I would love to take a trip down memory lane. I just don't have the map to get there.
Yeah, I see. I don't know any details. I just have like little flashcards in my head of like just some images of those moments. And I think it was talking about like something about like what would the currency be in a post-apocalyptic world? Because I said something about how it wouldn't be like Fallout with like bottle caps. Like, why would anyone want bottle caps?
Yeah,
I mean, I guess you could if everyone agreed to use bottle caps. But I have a feeling that with the lack of society, you're not gonna get everyone turned around to whatever form of currency you choose. So we were just wondering, what would we end up all just kind of inevitably reverting to? But I wish I could remember more because I know that it got fucked up, the conversation.
That doesn't surprise me.
I think even like sex was one. Like offering favors as a form of currency.
You know, I think that's a viable option, I think, in a post-apocalyptic world, man. People get lonely. The snow's a lot colder.
Better go out and make a sale.
Yeah.
I could use the warm touch of the human hand. Or more so if you have a good that's worth that much, I guess. I don't know exactly what the equivalency is there. Like,
yeah,
a snow cone is a... Well, geez, I was going to say a handy J, but that still feels pretty serious for a snow cone. and then I don't know what you do after you get past some of the really bad stuff. Like, okay, like say you get past just like sex in general. How do you buy a house? Seems like you're gonna really need to put out to buy that house.
Just take out a mortgage, bro.
How do you take? What does a mortgage look like? Though?
Once a month, dude. You just give a payment once a
You gotta
month.
give an IOU.
Yeah.
Okay, so the IOUs are for bigger payments, but
Yeah.
the action you're doing, like, say you, I don't know, you want to buy a brand new plasma screen TV or whatever, 4K TV. I don't even know what the newest shit is anymore. But say you want to buy something like that, you don't have quite the money. Maybe you give them an IOU, and it's just handy J's every week for like 5 months. I guess.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
it seems like a bad deal because I don't know if there's electricity necessarily in this post-apocalyptic world. So, you get your 4K TV for all that work and then, use it as a really shitty blanket or something.
A blanket. I was going to say a table, but yeah.
Oh, that's much smart. See, you would last a lot longer in the post-apocalyptic world than I would.
Okay. Maybe I got that going for me. but say I'm kind of like equating this to like like I don't know, like goods and services and other things that would that we would be partaking in right now. That's all I know. I don't know what deals are going to happen in the apocalypse, but okay, say like the TV was worth that amount, then you had to buy a house. Is that one like an IOU anal every 3 days for 9 months or like 2 years?
Oh God, that's a big commitment, man. I don't know.
That is a huge commitment. You're like, I don't know if I want that house.
Yeah, for real. It's only 2 bedrooms, man. This is a whack deal.
Now, I'd do that if I had an extra bathroom.
Right. 2 showers, minimum.
Yeah, none of that half-bath shit.
Yeah. That's pre-apocalyptic Neanderthal living, dude. We've upgraded.
Okay, I got sidetracked here. All this was a sidetrack tangent. I enjoyed it, but
that was good. Yeah.
Yeah. So living here, that's what I'm dealing with. It's just kind of odd, but I don't know. It's just kind of tricky to get my bearings, and plus, I need to get myself a job. That'll probably help.
You haven't had much luck?
Well, I kind of started being a fry cook for a fast food joint. I don't want to do that. I opted out of that pretty fast.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You were there for like 2 days. You're like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah. Well, I think I've learned all I can from here.
Yeah.
I'd like to not do this for months and months and months, perhaps years. I don't know. So, bye.
Yeah, dude, that work sucks, bro. Fast food is just...
Fast food is the one I hate the most. I'm willing to do so many other things. Like, I don't mind working in almost any other retail. Like, grocery stores are fine. Probably more boring than anything else.
Yeah.
I'd rather be a clerk at a gas station or something like that. Just really any some of the jobs you might consider basic or like just not a huge skill level required for those jobs. Maybe those are the ones that are easiest to get. Fuck, I got a burp. Was that beautiful?
It was. I think I saw some stars shimmer.
Yeah,
as it faded.
Yeah. Damn, that'd be nice.
I feel like that would hurt a lot.
Oh,
it's actually asbestos in my lungs,
it's
bro.
tuberculosis. It hurts so bad. Oh, that's awful. Those beginning jobs, those ones are always the easiest to get, and fast food's in one of them, but that's the one I hate the most. Have you ever done?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So I worked at a Subway for like 3 years of my life,
yeah.
and then I worked at a deli in a loaf and jug for a little while, and it's just constant stress. You never have enough food. Someone's always coming in to get some more. There's just never really a moment to just breathe. In fast food.
And on one hand, it's like I do like the time because I think the time would kind of go by fast for the most part. But that's like it was the one good thing, and that wasn't even guaranteed.
Yeah, bro, and that's what you think until you get there, and then you're like, oh shit, it doesn't go fast because I hate every living second of being here right now.
Yeah, and the whole thing. What's worse is like it's fast food. It's all fast paced. But what you forget is the people are back there running around like chickens with their heads cut off, trying to like make the shit for you. And then it's like it's one of those things. It's just a huge chain reaction. All it takes is one person messing something up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, say the cook overcooks the chicken or something like that. He was too busy. That fucks everything up. Like, now there's like a lineup of cars. Then you've got the people who were over there running the register, like the computers and stuff. They're pissed off and they're yelling, like, like, where's the chicken at?
Yeah.
And then the cook's all like stressed and pissed off. And then the manager's pissed off because now everything doesn't look good. And like maybe the general manager is going to come in soon or something like that. I don't know. It's just it just takes one little thing like that to make a huge ripple effect. And that's a lot of stress that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah, man. Well, and it's like when you're in the industry, one of the things I did enjoy was that you would like get into that flow prior to someone like messing something up or whatever. You would get into that flow and literally like you just kind of lose sense of being yourself and you're just like, I am the fast food. And it's so cool.
I am the cook.
Yeah. It's kind of cool, because you get to be like this like a cell, like how our cells have all these little intricate protein building mechanisms going on 24/7. You just become a part of a larger thing for a while.
Just another cog in the machine, which is the case with any business. It just feels so different with fast food. And I think it's the stress. And the fact of the matter is that if I'm going to be getting paid that much or that little, that little, let's be honest, I'm going to go do something a little bit more low key. I know this all sounds like just kind of like pissing and moaning over like little stuff. I mean, really, if it comes down to it, a job's a job. And if you need it, you should probably get that job. However, I'm still kind of in a room to be picky because I was I could have been wiser, but I was wise enough to save a bunch of money before I did this. So I have a nice cushion to kind of help me out and try to be a little picky. Now, should, down the line it be getting tough, then I guess I'm just going to have to sack up and start flipping some burgers. But
yeah.
In the meantime, I'm really shooting for management of a big important firm. Maybe a professor, even though I have no formal education after high school.
Yeah.
That's not true. I did a semester in a community college before I bailed out.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
You could probably make up some shit for a course, man. Like,
do some catch me if you can stuff and just totally fake all my credentials and just.
Yeah, man. And then as long as you do a good enough job before they catch on to you faking your credentials, you might be able to keep it.
That's how it works in the movies. I have to really get ingrained in the community. Everyone loves me. I'm like super good. And then like the little old dean or whatever who was questioning me at first and was suspicious. She found out, but she just kind of politely takes me to the side. She just lets me know she knows. But I better watch myself because I'm part of the community. And then I realized she said I'm part of the community, and it touches my heart.
Aw. That's so sweet.
That's the movie.
Yeah.
Or at least that just means, I've watched too much TV. But it could go something like that if I play it off right.
Yeah. I mean, shit, dude. Everybody else is watching it. They probably think the world works the same way, too. Like,
Yeah.
You could probably
get away with they've seen the same movies.
Yeah.
Have you seen Kindergarten Cop, Dean?
Yeah.
I really hope you have. I hope you liked it. Yeah, so there's that one, job hunting. But okay, when you first got here, I'm going to learn from you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, we'll see. I'll let you tell the story first, and then I'll decide. But
okay.
You first moved here.
Yes.
What did it look like?
I first moved here, and I moved in with my sister and a couple of her roommates. And they had this house on Garfield Street, and so I took a vacant room in the basement, and literally for 8 months of my life, I didn't do anything. I kind of just got into this slump, and I would wake up and then go right back to sleep every day. So I don't really have much for sage advice on getting yourself grounded when you move to a new place, man. I just kind of stumbled into the job I have now once we moved out of that old house on Garfield and into the apartment we're living now. So basically, if you're going to take advice from me, it's to say something will come around eventually, but that that's kind of shitty advice,
You're not wrong. I mean, especially that kind of stuff, like stuff falling in your lap. That does happen a lot. Especially when I think back to I think most of the jobs I've honestly gotten were just really it wasn't just a typical I applied, they called, I got the job, and then stayed there for, I didn't have to really work for it. The first job I had when I was in high school, my sister worked there, so they just were like, hey,
easy in.
Yeah, easy in. And then at the hospital when I worked there in Newcastle, I already knew who the manager was of my department because
Mhm.
I had worked with her before at the grocery store, and of course we knew each other because she'd like coached my or participated in some way in my like sister's soccer team or something like that. So I
Mm.
already knew her, and she'd already told me like, you should apply, we need help, and blah blah blah. So then I just was like, yeah. And then of course I knew I was gonna get a call, and I did get a call.
Mhm.
So and that's how it's almost worked. And those aren't the only jobs I've ever worked, but it's everything's kind of worked similar to that.
Yeah, same.
So I'm kind of like hoping, like something comes around the corner and it just falls into my lap. But I also know I shouldn't just wait for it,
Mm-hmm.
which isn't just an age-old thing there. Stuff could be coming, but you can't really just wait for it. But
Right.
so how did you get your job then? Was it just you ran into someone and they were like, "You look like a strapping young lad. You want to come follow us?" No.
No, thank you. Well, wait, what's the job again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, we're just doing construction. It's fine.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
As long as the construction isn't on my butt, I'm fine.
Yeah. No, but when my sister and I were going to look at apartments, one of the apartments we went and we applied to, the one we're actually living in now, the landowner asked me, he said, "So what do you have for a job?" And I said, "Well, I'm looking right now." And he said, "My wife is looking for help with doing maintenance stuff." And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Actually, she's here in the building right now. We should go talk to her." So I was like, "Oh, okay." My heart started
damn.
beating faster because I was not expecting to like have this kind of conversation.
I had not
So-
mentally prepped for this in the shower today.
Yeah, exactly. So we go down there and I meet her, and literally I remember. I don't remember the conversation that happened, but I do remember the headspace I was in right now. My eyes must have lit up like I was a deer in a headlight when I saw her. And she was like, "So, do you have any experience or whatever?" I was like, "No, I don't have any experience whatsoever."
I have no
And-
idea why your husband guided me down here.
Yeah, I told him that I had no experience. I told him I knew nothing about it, but he was like, "Oh, that's okay. She can teach you." And so I was like, I guess I'm not gonna snake my way out of this one somehow. So
Yeah.
let's roll with it. And I just remember I felt like I was in like a back part of my head.
You were just a witness you're just there for the ride while some other part of Cooper took over.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was almost a little bit out of body for me,
Ooh.
man. And I just had the conversation, and she was like, "Great, can you start Monday?" And I was like, "I guess."
I guess I don't really have anything on my agenda.
Yeah, so I was like, "Yeah." And so then I started on Monday, and now I've been working for her for about a little over a year now, about a year and a couple months, and
Still going good.
yeah, it's going all right.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I need to do that. Maybe I'll start applying for apartments I have no intention of getting, but
Yeah.
kind of wait there. Then they finish the tour, and I'll just stand there and wait. Like, okay.
So where's the job
Yeah.
offer? I thought that's what the application's for,
Yeah.
right?
I just throw a tantrum. God damn it! That's what the last 5 said too. Cooper's a liar.
What is with the landlords in this town?
Yeah. No shit. No, I haven't. I haven't. I so far I've just kind of applied for some like just. I've applied for some things here and there, but the ones I want to hear from are the ones I haven't heard from. Everyone that I was kind of like starting to settle a little bit, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go do this or that. Those are the first ones that called right away
Mm-hmm.
for a reason.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, there's just that. Yeah, and that I guess I was just curious about how your moving had gone, but it sounds like yours was pretty. I don't want to say seamless, but
It was
it's
very
different from mine.
Yeah, it was very my move-in. I would describe it as very anti the American dream.
You think
Right?
so?
Yeah, I had no vision for what I was going to do or for what was going to happen. I just went with it, and
Maybe that is the American dream. You just show up. What are you here for? I don't know. But you just find something. You just live a whole life. And you're like, what the fuck was all that?
yeah.
I didn't plan for a damn thing that happened. So I figure that's just probably what life is. But the other thing I wanted to ask you about was okay, so we kind of like mentioned a little bit about moving and all that, but passion wise, I mean, like you've got this job you've been working in. I assume you like it well enough. I haven't really heard you like complain about it really.
Yeah, it's just labor work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for you, I talked about this with a little bit with Dustin on the last, not the last one, the first one we did, and I think it was a good topic to bring up. I liked it. It was talking about passion, and like some people, like, you know, him being much different from me, and that, you know, he always grew up with passion and always had something he wanted to do. Kind of always had a direction. I've been the polar opposite of that. I've never known what I was supposed to be doing or what I want to do. I have interest in some things. I don't know if I'd want to do that for the rest of my life, but what about you in your case? Do you feel passion for anything? Is there any job you want to start signing or start working towards or anything while in the meantime?
Well, I don't know, man. Like, I think it's kind of like, I don't know. So
yeah, it's a tricky one.
Yeah, I have to think for a second because it's not. I mean, I'm sure I've spent countless nights laying awake, being like, "Oh God," stressed about this. But for some reason now, I just can't think of any of the thoughts that I had about it before. Probably a good thing.
Yeah, right. It's on your mind 24/7 or anything like that. But
yeah, but I don't know. I just kind of think, you know, I really like the concept of like being a writer or a poet. But like. And so that's where I think that my passion would lie, is like spreading a good message and like artistically conveying like deeper truths about like the human condition or whatever. Deeper truths. I mean, whatever.
Right, whatever that means and whatever it means to you.
Yeah. And so like that's what I want to do, whether or not it's as a career, like that's fine, you know. Like, I'm not really, because in my head, the question of what do you want to do with your life is much bigger than like a career thing. You know, I don't know.
Right. That's what I've thought about too. Something. I talked about this with Sid a little bit, and it was about the point of people who. I don't know. I don't really even know how to explain it really, but it's the people who just work a job and and sometimes it, you know, I think especially I'm more harsh with this view towards people who work a job that I'm like I guess like I sat there and ranted about fast food. There's some people who've worked in it for years, maybe large portions of their life or something like that.
Bless their hearts, man.
Yeah, really. And with, you know, so I think I'm a little bit more harsh on them for the jobs that I hate, but. For the people, I just don't understand this thing of like getting a job and then you just work that for the rest of your life. Like you don't do anything else. You stay in the same town. You just kind of, or, you know, something like that. That's not quite all of what I want to encompass. Maybe we'll just kind of segue our way around it till I feel like we maybe got it.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
But that's something to me that's strange, is just working. But then maybe that's someone's passion. I don't know. I don't know what that, like, you know, but there's some people who are just content to just work a job, or maybe there is just one career for them and then they'll just go do that thing and then they do it till they can't anymore. I don't think, but then then I sometimes think, oh, but you just have to translate it into the thing that you would want to do. But I don't even know if I'd want to do any one thing. Say this podcast took off. Would I even want to do this forever? I'd probably do it for a while. It'd be fun. Say it got super successful, like I enjoy doing it, but would I do it for the rest of my life either way?
Well, yeah, I mean, like look at people like Joe Rogan. How many different quote unquote careers has he gone through in his life, man?
Yeah,
you know,
I think that's kind of something too. I noticed, like, there's people who I think once you start to kind of get the wealth and a little bit of the spotlight to help you with some of the endeavor, like, things you want to pursue. I think that's why you see a lot of the people who would, like, say you look them up, they have their little Wikipedia page and they're like, director, actor, singer, songwriter, poet, garbage man. Like they just have all these, like, YouTuber. They just do all these things. I think it's just because they're in a position to do it more. Probably like a little bit more financially stable to do it, to try, I guess.
Sure, man. Well, and I almost wonder if it's just like a completely separate thing in and of itself. Like, you know, like, is Joe Rogan like searching for his passion, or does he just understand the scope of his own life and like the scope of his own worldview, and regardless of whatever occupation he takes up, like that's what he's doing, you know? Like,
yeah,
like you were talking earlier about how, you know, you don't understand the people who just go to work and that's like their life. And so maybe like, you know, maybe like people who are successful, their focus isn't about what they do for work, but more about the things that they do when they don't have time obligated to other people.
Right.
You know, and maybe that just kind of, and maybe the jobs are just them going from job to job because they run out of, the opportunity in the job or whatever. They get fired, they lose all motivation to go or whatever, but they still have that thing that they have been dedicating themselves to their own time that, keeps them going, and they're like, well, I still like this, but I need to eat food. I need to have a place to live, so I just got to pick up another gig.
Right, well, and that's kind of like what I mean, like, I work a job because I have to work a job, but I promise I wouldn't be working any of the jobs that I have been working if I didn't have to do that. If I was already wealthy and I could just afford to just already have a nice house and then just kind of set all this up and start doing it, that would be one thing. I work a job because I have to. For me, I don't know if there's any one institutionalized, company or corporation or any one task I can do that would entertain me for life. And maybe I just haven't tried new things. I don't know. As far as like, for me, the things I like doing is like entertainment stuff. I like doing the podcast. I like coming up with like skits and like filming stuff. I like working with people and talking to people. And that's kind of one of my like downfalls too, is I like if I could, like, I enjoy my days of kind of just partying all the time.
Sure. Who doesn't?
Yeah. Yeah, that one really wasn't much of a stretch to get past people, but I enjoy visiting with people and talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
So I've kind of tried to spin that into something that I could do, and like the hope is it takes off and all that, and that you can like financially support yourself off of it. But so I guess in this case, this would be my passion, I guess. But I think it just feels a little different when some people really enjoy working for like a corporation or a company or something like that. Like they want to rise up the ladder and stuff like that. That's the one that just doesn't resonate as much with me. And maybe that's even an older time thing. I don't know.
Oh, I don't think so, dude. I definitely think that, but I think that like the intrinsic motivation most of the time for people who do that is just money, money, money. I want to make money. I want to be able, because really maybe that paints a bad picture of people. Maybe it's not money, 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 but security, security, security.
Right. Like we see, like, if you chase money, we see it as being like a bad thing, like you're greedy. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure obviously like with anything, you can take it too far, but what does money represent?
Yeah. What need are they trying to fulfill with the money?
Yeah. Because that's, at the end of the day, I don't go to the store to play with money. I'm going there to pick things up, and the money just gets me what I want, should I have enough of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're right. For other people, like for the people who are more about like just keep making that money, keep grinding, it's because they want nice things. They probably security. The more money you have, the more. What's that?
I said maybe women.
Yeah, really. I mean, they say money can't buy you happiness, but I don't think it could buy you happiness, but I think it's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm. Can open the doors to get you where you need to go to find it,
Because which one do you want to be? Do you want to be like the humble guy who's just happy, having a good time in a mansion, or the happy, humble guy who's in an alley?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll be that happy, humble guy either way, but I'd rather have the mansion. I'm going to be honest.
Right. Well, and like there's the whole thing about, what does a person do with their money that helps to also illuminate like their motivation for getting it. Like if people are just getting all their money and they're just like holding on to it forever or whatever, then you can maybe just be like, okay, they just wanted money.
Yeah. It was about the money for them.
Yeah. But if they're making a lot of money and then they're going out and they're, spending it on cars or spending it on going out or spending it on other people, you can kind of see how the money is just like an extension of their character.
Sure. And I don't have a problem with looking for money. Like obviously I want money as well. I think it's just I guess what do you do to get that money?
Mm-hmm.
And what are you willing to do to get it? And there's another topic too that I thought of recently, or I've thought of before. It's like some of these people who do there's like a level of hard work that I think, because we all look up for hard work and all that, but I don't think I'll ever be the person that's like 24/7 just grinding all the time. I'm working out, I'm working on something. Like I enjoy entertainment. I like sitting back and I like sometimes like, there's times where I'll get caught up for like a few nights in a row or something like that of having people over visiting or something like that. And I enjoy that stuff. but I'm not really getting anything done necessarily. None of my projects are getting lifted off. I'm not making more money. I'm not like necessarily. I don't want to say being unhealthy with my body, but me personally, I probably am. For most people just sitting around visiting, that's not a problem. For me, I'll probably be, inclined to have a smoke or have a drink or something like that, or 2 or 3 or
7,
wherever it goes.
Yeah.
But I want that time, that like extra time, just kind of sit around, or that time to like do little things to enjoy stuff. I don't really want to be the person that's grinding all day.
Well, rest is important, man. It is.
I think it's just a matter of like, oh, here's something I did want to ask you about, though.
Okay.
So, this is a weird one.
I love weird. I love them.
Okay, well then, I don't know. You clapped, you got really excited, and I'm like, oh, it might not be weird enough. Now I feel like I need to like scrap that one for now and then just like pull something really weird out and be like, is this weird enough for you?
Yeah.
Friendship, adult friendships. Like, how has it been making friends? I don't know why this is something I just thought of. I think it's just because I'm in my position and I'm like, how do you go make friends again in a new place? Give us your advice, Cooper. How do we make friends?
Be friendly. I mean, it's kind of it's kind of garbage advice, but like what do you want? You want me to give you a 10-line say these
I
things?
Want a self-help book.
Yeah, I like
Cooper Karp.
I can't give you an answer to because when you're talking to people, you're talking to a person, and each person is unique and different. And so, if you want to have an adult friendship, you just have to put in the time of talking and listening to someone, and that's as simple as it is. And a lot of people, I think, well, in my experience, granted, I'm not the most social person. Like, I'm not the best at like striking up conversation with people, but a lot of the people that I've become friends with, it's the same sort of thing that I experienced in Newcastle, where they see me and they're like, oh, hey, oh my God, what's up? But it's like I'm walking down the street and people don't do that because they've never talked to me and I haven't had the chance to actually sit and connect with them, and it's just,
right.
It's almost random chance, the people that you run into and end up becoming friends with. I mean, there's an element of choice to it as well, where you say like, oh, you're that kind of person, no thanks, or whatever. Like, you have that freedom to choose. But yeah,
no, I think it just interests me because I think back to like how I have ever made any of the friends that I have, the ones that actually like, it's one thing to have a friendly interaction with another person. That one's easy. That one's fair. Just don't be a dick, and you'll have a lot of positive, friendly interactions with people. It's not a guarantee, but for the most part. The one, it's like making friends that like stick and stuff like that. Did you actually end up becoming like friends that have a bond and you like still choose to be part of each other's life? That one is a little bit odd to me, just because like when I think about it, because for me, I think every time I've ended up with like friends that I really ended up enjoying and having stick around, they just kind of showed up by chance, and then it's like, just I guess never left. I've never really done like a thing where I've like met with like some coworker and I was like, hey, do you want to get a beer after this or something? Like, I don't know how to initiate that one. Like, I don't know why. I think I'm in the position I'm in, and I'm reflecting on that, and I'm like, I guess I've never done that before.
Well, it's kind of weird, because like when you meet someone, you kind of start establishing a relationship right away. And obviously, like with your coworkers, your idea is we're here to work together. And so that kind of builds the foundation and the rules you set with each other. So obviously, like, it's classic things that you find in like a business. They're like, no inter office relationships. That ruins things, like,
yeah, don't fuck your coworkers.
Yeah.
That's the reason they say that.
Yeah, exactly. Because it does create tension if things blow up or whatever. But
I've tried it. I've tested it. They're right. It's probably not for the best. I'm not saying it's going to work bad every time. But it can be awkward.
What do you think the odds of it working out are?
I mean, like, I still talk to Amanda. Like, we're still friends to this day. So that's probably like the best case scenario you can hope for. And sometimes in any case, when you stop dating someone, like, you don't usually always end up good friends after that. However, I think that instance is pretty rare in my experience, I guess, and from what I've witnessed. I've just witnessed more awkwardness than I've witnessed success stories when it comes to fucking your coworkers. Usually, and I have also experienced it where, and I gotta say, I don't think I'm trying not to name drop. Amanda's fine. She's been on the podcast. I can say her name
Sure.
all I'd like. I don't want to name drop or do anything too ridiculous, but I think I have an instance where I can't remember for sure though if that one started at work. I think in my defense in that one it started out not being at work, but then ended up being coworkers. And then ended up not dating that person anymore. And I can go ahead and say that, yeah, it was really awkward after that. There's like, you go up and there's like some of the like girls checking and they're all talking. They're all like, oh, hey. You're like,
but that's like the thing though. Like that's
fuck.
That's built on like a different foundation, you know? Like your relationship with her wasn't built on being a coworker. It was built on like emotional intimacy or whatever. Or
sure, okay,
physical intimacy. I don't know what your relationship was like.
Yeah,
you know,
you were there for the whole thing.
I was in the closet, bro. Don't worry, I know what was going on. We're good.
I could tell you some things, Tanner. Right? Well, I don't know. I get what you're saying. Like, I'm not saying it couldn't work out, especially like eventually, you know, because when you're at work, you know, that's what your guys' relationship kind of is. It's just based around let's get this job done. It's better if I don't hate you, so let's just kind of get along.
It's like Stanley in The Office says, we don't have to get along, we just have to work
together.
You know,
well, that's what I've always like what I've had every manager say every time I hear like someone like breaking, like people arguing or some drama ensuing. They're like, yeah, I don't expect you guys to like each other, but you're gonna have to learn to work together. I'm like,
yeah, slow clap
Yeah.
out from the corner of the shadows.
yeah. And don't fuck your coworkers.
Right. That's the byline.
Yeah, I think it's the worst part about that is just when you have to come back to work, say things don't work out. And also, maybe dating them and having a relationship and having it end is one of the better case scenarios. What if you like take a chance and you just ask a coworker out? You're like, hey, do you want to go get a drink? And then like you like take that, like you guys go back to their place or something. Things maybe like warm up, get funky. And then like something embarrassing happens, like I don't know, you pee your pants. I don't know why that would happen. I don't know what happened that night. I'm just saying, you guys got to go back to work like tomorrow or something like that. I'm not saying that that's a deal ruiner, but it could be. I don't know. You probably just don't want to deal with it. And I promise there's other people, you know, outside of your workplace you could probably try to hook up with. So. Maybe just steer clear. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah. And like I said earlier, each person is different. You know, you're dealing with a person. Figure out how that person is, you know, what that person thinks and feels.
True. How else do you go? Okay, in a romantic setting, how else do you find partners as an adult? Do you just go to bars? But then that feels like bars feel like such a one-night stand feel. Or potential. I'm not saying that that's how they always go. I wouldn't know. I've never picked anyone up from the bar before. But
yeah. So I think that the chances, I don't know, man. Like I know from experience, I know couples who met in a bar and they're married. They got married. You know, they had their happily ever after or whatever. But the ever after was cut short. You know, they end up in divorce. I don't know if I've ever seen a couple that met each other in a bar and it was love at first sight or whatever, and they ended up staying together.
Right. Well, how many people? When you like ask like just an old elderly couple, and they're like, "We've been together for 60 years." You're like, "How'd you guys meet?" I've never once heard them say, "I tried to fuck her at a bar once."
Yeah, I saw her doing the boot scoot boogie and couldn't help myself.
Yeah, she was grinding on one guy, and then I wiggled my way over, and then she was grinding on me, and.
Then I was grinding on the dude. It was very weird. Maybe I love the dude. I don't know.
Yeah. After all the 60 years, they get a divorce. He goes back and finds the guy. It was you all along.
I've waited for you forever. Oh,
yeah.
That's so touching.
That is beautiful. I just don't think it really happens at a bar. I don't know. It could. It just feels like, and I don't know what it is. What is it about a bar that makes it feel? Is it just the fact that like people go there?
Bro, people are drunk. They're tipsy.
Yeah.
They're not there to make good life decisions. They're there to be loosey goosey and have a regret and be able to be like, well, I got so drunk and made a mistake. You know.
Yeah, no, I like. Yeah, see, I mean, that's like what a bar is, right? So we broke it down. Okay, people go there to cut loose, to not participate outside of like the parties, outside of those atmospheres. It's responsible adult time. You know, all of the agreements we've made in a civilized society, like to participate in a civilized society, we all have to obey up until you're at a party or a bar, and then it's like some of that goes away a little bit. It's like, normally you're not allowed to take your pants off, but at a party it can be seen as funny, or you're about to get laid because two people are making probably a decision they'll regret the next morning. Maybe not, or maybe only one of them will. Who can say?
Right.
But it's okay to do that. You kind of, it like, you get to bring out your like animalistic impulses a little bit. But the big, like you said, people are going there to get cut loose and get drunk and just, I don't know, see what happens.
Yeah, the ones that end up going there. So I have been this one where you end up going there and you're like, I want to meet a girl and I just, I want to
it's tempting.
Form a connection or whatever, and then you just end up going home sad.
I'm not, and I didn't even get drunk. I didn't do anything right.
But it's real, and you try, you try to strike up a conversation with a pretty gal or whatever, and she's just like, oh, gross, dude at a bar, like, I'm not trying to get with you, dude. Go away, And so you just go home sad, and then you're like, well, I guess I'll try again tomorrow or whatever, Like,
hopefully, if it's a different mix there tonight or tomorrow night, whatever.
Yeah.
That's just it. I don't think a lot of people are going there for true love or anything like that. No one's going there for like necessarily real like human connections. They're just going there to like let loose some like animalistic steam. And then, leave, go to sleep, wake up, and then start partaking in society again. But to me, it just feels like, that's just one of those things where it's like, that's a good place to meet people, but it's not a good place to meet people.
Right.
It's only good because it's a big grouping of them, and none of you have responsibilities while you're there.
Well, and it's like when you get like a group of friends who your only connection is that you all smoke pot or whatever. And I'm not saying that people who smoke pot can't have good friendships or healthy friendships.
No, of course not.
Yeah, they definitely can. But like, I remember when I stopped smoking pot, all my friends just disappeared. I never heard from them again, never really saw them. We would see each other, happenstance, because it was Newcastle. So we'd see each other. But when we did, we wouldn't be like, hey, man, how's it go? You want to go for a hike, or you want to swim or go golfing or something? It would just be like, hi.
No, and I won't. Again, I won't name drop, but I'm sure know plenty of people that I could be perhaps thinking of just because we're both from the same little podunk town. But
probably a few. We're probably thinking.
We're probably
experienced the same couple people.
We'll communicate after this, but no, there's definitely some people where it's kind of like, especially when I stopped doing like the party, because there was a long stretch there. Listeners, I don't know if you know this or not, but I spent like 2 solid years like drinking and partying hard, like at least 1 year there where that was like partying hard,
like every day.
It was every single day, way late into the night. I'd go to work, strangers passed out all over the floor, or associates, friends, acquaintances, whatever you want to call some of them. But that kind of like partying and stuff. But when that ended, there was most of them I didn't see after that. Most have only ever showed up for the parties, and so that ended it. Some of them, and then there were some that still were around. But I found like when we weren't smoking pot or something, when we weren't smoking weed, there was no other connection there. That was our one connection.
Yeah.
So once you're not doing that, you're just kind of like two people sitting in a room, and you're like, so. But you have to like struggle to say something because you don't want to be the one. I don't know. That's just what was my angle. It sometimes worked, but that's like your connection. Like sometimes there's some people. I'm pretty sure we went off on a tangent off of something you were saying, but the whole thing when you're hanging out with somebody when there's just only one thing that's stringing you guys together.
Well, and something that fades too. Like because you can build your relationships off of a lot higher foundations, like happiness or fun or the big one, obviously, love. And when you do that, those things they don't fade, because those things,
Yeah, there's got to be like a more permanent connection there other than something fleeting, like a substance.
Or even like philosophical agreements, you know, like even those things, they're not necessarily enough to keep people together, you know, or at least there are bigger things out there than that can connect people.
Right. Like I don't think I've ever heard of like the one connecting factor of like a good couple was that they agreed on politics together. I'm not saying that doesn't, like, that probably helps when you guys are in more agreement on things.
Yeah.
But there's some of those where it's like, I don't think that holds you together per se. And that one's tricky to pluck apart and figure out exactly which things are a better connection than others. But yeah, I don't know. As far as, you know, going back to like the making friends with people, you know, the bar feels like a weird place to try and make a lot of good, you know, romantic or friendship connections. It's just kind of like a night of debauchery. And then, you know, the other one we have that's prevalent is online dating.
Yeah, Tinder.
And I know we've mentioned this before, but I got a tickle in my throat.
I know. I feel the tickle in my ear when you talk, man. These headphones and microphones are really good.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break and we'll come back. And let's remember where we're at. We're talking about
forming adult friendships.
Yes.
Yes.
Specifically, we'll go back to Tinder.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or that online dating for sure.
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
All comfy cozy.
All comfy cozy.
Excellent. Okay. So we're back from our little break. So where were we? Do you want to pick us up where we left off?
We were talking about Tinder.
Yeah.
I don't know if we actually started in.
No, I think we just
sort of dissection.
No, I think we just mentioned online dating and stuff. Let's just get into that. That's
cool.
A whole topic in and of itself.
So what's your experience with online dating?
Ooh, that's a good one. I will say that, you know what? That's one thing. I don't know. Like, I both love interviewing people, and also sometimes I'm like, "Do you have any questions for me?" And they're like, "No, you're the one interviewing." I'm like, "Yeah, could have thrown like a couple towards me."
Yeah,
I wanted to talk to you, which I get to do a lot of anyway. I don't know. That's just that's another topic for another day. Online dating, my experience with that. You know, not a lot really. I know that like there was times in my past, like a couple times, I think I'd like download like Tinder or something like that, and then give that a whirl for like a few days. And it's almost weird, like you almost get like obsessed with it for like a second or something. Like I know that's what they're supposed to be, like that's probably what they're supposed to be doing, getting you reeled in using their app all the time.
It's like a little game.
Yeah, but you're just like window shopping the entire time. You just kind of get to flick around and like look like, you're ugly, and you flick to the left or whatever direction. Then you, ooh, you're hot, flick to the right, and you'll probably not talk to most of them.
Oh yeah, like you get like a match, and then you're just like, well, that was cool, I guess, but whatever.
Yeah, kind of. There's been a lot of I think like you spend most of your time just window shopping, and then it says, yeah, you're a match, and then I'm like, oh no, I have to actually talk to them. I know that's what I set out to do, but I don't know if I want to do that now.
Right?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I think like I once talked to a girl. One of my friends here had a friend from Colorado come up, and she reminded me a lot of a person that I knew. That's kind of beside the point. But we were talking about Tinder at one point because one of the other people that were with us got a match on Tinder, and she doesn't have, you know, she's not the most outgoing person, and so everybody else in the car was like, ooh, you know, you gonna talk to him, you know, or whatever. And
yeah.
She was like, well, duh, yeah, I matched with him, and then
good, at least she knew that part.
Yeah. But then this other girl that was with us that came up from Colorado, she was like, I don't really get on Tinder to like talk to anybody or meet anybody. I just like knowing that I match with someone who I find
really
attractive.
So that's her reward there.
Yeah, you know, someone that is hot thinks I'm hot, and that's enough. You know,
I mean, it is kind of a good feeling. Like, okay, this is where I'm gonna sound like a shit person, but I know that everyone's been thinking it, so I'm gonna take one for the team, and I'm gonna fucking say it.
Sweet.
You like it when the hot ones match with you, but you don't like it when the uggos do.
Oh, absolutely, dude. You match with them, and you're immediately unmatched, dude. Immediately.
Yeah, they're like then they message you first. Hey,
Dude, and that's the worst. Like when, not necessarily if it's an ugly person. Obviously, when an ugly person does it, it's like even worse, because you're like, I didn't even want to be in this situation in the first place.
I accidentally hit right on you. I'm sorry.
So I've done that to a couple girls where they've messaged me and I actually told them that, and then they were,
Oh, you said
I know, dude, real dick move. But I figured
Okay.
I'm just gonna be honest. I don't want to play this game and try and let it down gently. I'm just gonna cut. I'm ripping the Band-Aid off right here, right now.
Which one do you think is worse, having said so, having told them, or just the feeling of you messaging somebody and then them never messaging you back? Like, that's kind of like some denial that, like, or that's, you got denied. Obviously they didn't message you, so
Right.
they probably saw it eventually. But
Mhm.
so there's some rejection there. But which one's worse?
I think for me, the one that I think is worse is if they just don't message you back.
Okay.
Like, I'm a human. At least, if you don't actually want to talk to me, just be honest. Just let me know. That's cool.
Okay.
Honor my dignity as a person, so I don't have to sit here and play this game in my head where I'm like, well, am I not actually attractive? Is this person just not on Tinder very often? Did they just see my message and forget to respond?
Yeah. I kind of see it like, I think, yeah, and that's perfectly fine too. I think I just see it as like, if they don't message back, it's kind of a clear sign too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
after a little bit, you're like, I don't think that's going anywhere.
Yeah, it gets really embarrassing for me because I don't read not a response as that. So I'll send messages again, like in a couple days. I'll be like, okay, they didn't answer this one. Let's try again.
Yeah.
And then I'll do that for like a month, and then all of a sudden, now I look like the jackass.
Yeah, you're like, damn, I really put myself out there, didn't I?
Yeah.
Just don't be that guy that like messages and starts getting like you'll see those jokes about it. They're like, hey, you're so pretty, blah blah blah. And, like, it'll just kind of be going down the list. Eventually, they're like, fucking bitch, I didn't want you anyways. And then after that, hey, you're beautiful. Like, they just keep trying to fucking like get into contact, get into their DMs, and
Yeah.
they're not taking the hint. Eventually, I mean, eventually, I think even in your case, you're like, okay, well, I guess that's not happening. But well, no matter what that window is for each individual before they decide to kind of give up, it is kind of like, I don't know, kind of tormenting to the human brain to like kind of be waiting around for that. Like,
Yeah.
even when you first message them or like you match or something like that, it's like it feels good, there's a reward, but there's also a lot of torment in like waiting around, hoping that they will want to talk to you too, and that it also works out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure there's some where you messaged first or they messaged first, whatever, you guys start talking, and then it just kind of fizzles out, doesn't become anything. But I think maybe that's another reason why I don't like it is there's a lot of highs involved with using it, and there's a lot of lows involved with using it too, like feeling, I don't know, worried or anticipating, wondering, I don't know. It's a big long thing there, but I don't know.
Sometimes when I'm on Tinder, I'll do the thing where I like match with someone and I'm like, oh, this hot person thinks I'm hot. That's cool. And then I won't do anything about it. And then like I'll have like one lonely night and I'll be like scrolling through the people I've matched with on Tinder.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I've matched with this person. Oh wait, that was like 3 months ago. That window's probably closed.
Does the window close there? Do you think?
I guess I don't know. I've never tried,
Oh, really?
I've always just assumed that the window's closed.
Do you guys bring that up later? Like, if you wait a long time, is it appropriate for you to bring that up later? Like, do one of you ask, so how come we didn't message? Like what if you were the first one to say, yeah, like I didn't message for, so long. I don't know. I had whatever reasons for doing it. And they're like, but then you could be like, why didn't you message me first?
I think
same thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I just prefer to take the fall most of the time, honestly.
You're the one that'll put yourself out there, more open. You're just more of a straight shooter though too. You're just a lot more. Like I've never even told anyone before. Like, hey, I don't really find you attractive. I don't know why we're matched. Sorry. Have a good day. Yeah. How'd that go, by the way? Like I should know, but I'm interested.
So all I got was one emoji. And it's kind of funny because, well, it's not funny, but there's another twist involved in the story where this person that I had matched with, because Sorry. Let me gather my bearings here.
Okay, you're good.
When I first got on Tinder, my philosophy was swipe right on everyone. So I would swipe right on everyone just to get the most potential matches possible.
Which is probably true. That'll help.
Yeah, dangerous game to play. Very dangerous game to play. So I was doing that, and I was doing this for like 2 or 3 months of me having Tinder, and so I matched with this girl, and I wasn't actually interested, but I kind of simped into it where I was like, okay, I'll go, let's go get dinner. That's fine. Yeah, it's just one date. I can do that.
Oh, okay.
So I went on one date with this girl, and then I never texted her back again. I was like, I don't want to do that again, so I'm just going to ignore my problems, I guess.
Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was nice. So I knew this girl beforehand, and so we were already friends, And so I guess I say it's just one date, but in my head it was like, we're just two friends getting a dinner or whatever.
Okay, that's...
Yeah. And so later on, I never messaged this girl on this Tinder account again, but later on she ended up making a second Tinder account apparently. And I was still, so I was still swipe righting all the time. And I matched with her again. And she messages me and she says, so this is the second time we've matched now.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's getting pretty serious.
Yeah. And so I was like, oh, crap. I didn't even want to match the first time.
Yeah, you've managed it twice now.
Yeah. And so that's when I was like, hey, like, I just swipe right on everyone, and I don't actually see you that way or whatever. And I just get one emoji back, just the upside down smiley face one.
Ooh.
And I was like, well, I better go to church this Sunday or whatever,
Okay, that's not that bad, I don't think.
Yeah. I
don't know. I've never been out on a date or anything off of social media like that, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've never taken that leap yet. Maybe I should try that.
Well, do you want to?
I don't know if I want to, though. I'll just try it, and then I'll just film it for content.
There you go. Yeah. I'll
spin it around. I don't know. Like, do you think in general it's a toxic thing or it's a beneficial thing? I mean, it's here to stay one way or the other. And I think it makes sense. It's like a technological advancement. Like, that was going to happen, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a good or a bad thing?
I mean, I don't know. I don't want to put a label as good or bad. I'm sure for some people it's done wonderful things. And,
true.
I'm sure, obviously, as with anything, there are going to be toxic people who go on and take advantage of the system, to play this hot person thinks I'm hot,
Mm-hmm.
Just the ego boost, So I don't think it's necessarily good or bad. I think it's just a tool, and it is what we make of it.
True. I think so, too. I mean, what about social media and, what about, do you think, because maybe, honestly, like, the dating apps aren't even that bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because you don't really see, like, a lot of, I don't know. I haven't heard of a lot. Like, I'm saying this because I think of like Twitter right off the bat, where I think is as a pretty toxic place for the most part. I don't know if you're participate in that shit show that's called Twitter at all, but
I scroll I think I follow like the Los Angeles Lakers and a couple of musicians, but that's it.
Yeah, okay. It probably just depends on who you follow. It's just easy to start falling down like the rabbit hole of, which I guess is in anything. It's a tool. What you make of it. It's just kind of. I think there's more of an underlying ability to be kind of more of an asshole and a shit stirrer on social media apps like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I guess worst case scenario, you just tell someone you're ugly and I don't want to go out with you again on Tinder. So that's the worst of it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's so funny to me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, man.
I know. Yeah. That's just one of those. It's another faucet of like adults. That was our main overarching point there was adults, I guess, meeting each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. In like school, you always just like in high school and in college, it's just, you're kind of just, it's like a playground of people. There's just all sorts of people that are just there and they all have to be there. But, maybe a friendship can be found, a romance can blossom here and there. That's as it happens when a grouping of people are all together.
Sure.
But then when you're off in your own, well, like once you're out of all that, you're kind of just way more like it's all up to you to go find those groupings of people and to find the setting that works the best for you. But that's just something I don't know. It's something I'm thinking about as I've been considering a lot of different aspects of life, especially being somewhere like, I mean, I spent most of my life, I really honestly in Newcastle.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like my, I moved to Sheridan for like college for a little bit, and then I, ended up going back. But this is like just this is instance of me moving has just kind of made me think about a lot of these different aspects. And I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm here. I have a few friends, sure, but I'm not plugged in like I was in the town before.
Sure.
Already had all connections. I knew most of the people who were already there. I mean, plus it was a small town, so it doesn't take that long to know who's all there. But, I don't know. It's making me analyze a lot of these different things. And I'm like, yeah, so what would work best for me? And, like, what do I think I should do? Like, just out of curiosity, because, of course, you move somewhere, you want to make friends.
Yeah.
Should, for anyone looking for romance, that's there too. Finding places of entertainment for you. I'm thinking about all of those things right now. So now I'm like, I wonder where I fit into all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just going to have to give it a whirl.
Pretty much, dude, And I think that's kind of the thing about adult relationships as well, is that I think that there's quite a few of them that actually work out the same way as it did when you were in high school. And you just had all the same classes and you did the same sports or you were in the same music program or whatever, and so you're just around each other and you end up becoming friends just because you're around each other, But I think it's interesting that you talk about almost the more meta approach to making friends, where first, like, you have to figure out what are you trying to do and then build your friend group around that.
Yeah. I'm just definitely over analyzing it right now. I'm just like in thought about it all. It's something I've been thinking about, and I think another reason for this is just because I spend so much time in a little town. Mm-hmm. So now it's like I'm in a much bigger place. I'm not in a huge city per se, but I'm somewhere different in a bigger place, and now I'm like, okay. So it's easy on one hand when you're in this like small town to like dream like that a lot of things will be solved if there's just more people. Because there's opportunities. Those are there, but you have to go find them and like go figure out what you're going to do and blah, 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 blah. So I think that's just kind of like why it's also, I've kind of got this like thought process. Cause I went from dreaming of having more opportunities, being somewhere where there is more opportunities. And I'm like, now I have to be the one, I have to go do that.
Yeah. Like, did you dream of opportunities, or did you dream of just the idea of having opportunities?
I think that's what I'm learning a little bit, is just how much was dreaming about not specific opportunities, but just the idea of there being more opportunities, kind of. And then you're like, you get here and you're like, well, shit.
This grass is just as not green.
Yeah, this is about the same as it was. Which it's not, but it is if that's what you're gonna make of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's where I'm at right now, is like learning how to like. And it's not like it's actually a huge deal or anything like that. It's just it's just an interesting thought. It's like kind of like you said, I'm just having like this meta thought about adulthood, kind of in a weird way.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna have to like go through and figure out what times where I burped. I'll let some of them slide. That's for the listeners to enjoy. But
yeah, give a prize if they can count how many burps were in the podcast.
I have a tally at the end of how much it was. If you can guess the lucky number, we'll have a sweepstakes and you'll win a prize. I don't know what that prize is, but
yeah, it's hard to have a prize that's like burp theme.
It's burp theme. What else have to? Come on down to Laramie, Wyoming, and I'll burp right in your face.
Yeah.
I don't think I have an avid listener base like that to have anyone offer to partake in that.
I hope not. Just for your safety.
I hope so, eventually. I want... What a world that would be to be a human being, and you're just popular enough that someone's like, burp in my face!
Yeah.
Okay.
If that's what you really want.
I'm a giver. I never said I didn't give you nothing. Okay, so here's another one. Since we're talking about these adult relationships and all that, So you obviously people like they go out to dates, like find a partner and all that. Do you like? It's this aspect of like feeling like or like being alone. That's where I'm kind of getting at. It's like this allure of wanting to be in a relationship.
Mm.
I can't think of exactly how to word this, but it's just like this. I don't know, this idea of it's like if when you're single, you want to be in a relationship, or you just kind of idealize that, having that. But when you're, sometimes, I don't want to say exactly how it is for everybody. I can't know.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, I think that's another one where I'm at. I'm like, I don't really want to deal with that though. Like, because a relationship is a whole thing in your life, like as it should be.
Right.
I don't know. It feels like, I think I'm also in a place where I want to like work and like buckle down and like get some shit in gear, to where I'm like, I don't really want to partake in a lot of it. There's times where I do though, where I'm like, oh, but there's for all the reasons we all want to be in relationships, they're nice,
Of course.
So I think that's kind of where another thought is. It's just kind of, I'm like, but then again, I don't want to be that old guy that's like alone. Like I've been grinding my whole life. And then I'm like, damn, I could have had kids.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I think it's kind of a situation like in my head, one thing that I've come around to is the idea of, am I running to or am I running from?
Okay.
And it sort of helps to establish the stability of not just relationships, but just things you do in your life in general. Specifically in the case of like relationships, am I running to love or am I running from loneliness?
Okay. Is it, I mean, it's kind of like a little bit of probably both in an element. Sort of, right? Or how would you explain that better? It just like, as far as, because you're kind of like, I mean, you want to run from loneliness like for love, but at first you don't love anyone when you're like, if you're looking for love, that's what you're doing. You're not in love romantically with anyone yet. So you're kind of trying to get away from the loneliness. I don't know if that meshes well at all with what you were saying, but
so it I think that helps to point out where I need to be a little more concise in what I mean. The thing of running is more like the motivation. Like if you're running to love, it's different than running from loneliness, because if you're only going towards relationships to run from loneliness, even in your relationships, like you're still going to feel alone, because loneliness is like the main motivator of you going out and pursuing the relationships or whatever. So I guess like the way I'm speaking is kind of in extremes.
Yeah. I get that.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. And I get what you're saying too. It's just, that's just one of the things where I don't know, romance is such a weird thing that's in your life.
God, yeah, it is, dude.
And it's one that takes up so much time and energy, no matter what tool you're using or how you're going about it. It's going to occupy some part of your brain.
Well, and I think that excuse me. I think that here in America we have two for the price of one.
Count Coopers as well.
If you can distinguish which ones are Tanner's and which ones are mine, an extra prize.
Yeah, an extra burp in your face.
Yeah. But like I think that here in America we have a toxic form of romanticism pushed upon us.
Yeah.
Where it's like people who love you will perform these grand gestures, and that the purpose of your life is to find one person to forever be with, and you'll never be complete without this other person. But I think that that's a really incomplete picture of life in general. I think that like marriage is a very human concept.
It is.
Not that it's a bad one.
No, we've had worse.
Yeah.
That one's pretty mellow as human ideas go.
Yeah, committing to a person, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, we've done way worse things to people. We're not going to list them here, but
Yeah. If you know, you know.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Yeah, but like it I wish that we had a much larger framework for our relationships. Like I wish when we talked about relationships as a culture, we weren't just talking about the love of your life, you know, your soulmate or whatever. And I wish that people didn't push this idea of your one true love is somewhere out there, you know, because like in my experience, and I'm not saying I'm the end all be all. I know that, you know, it's probably hopeful for some people, but like in my experience, what happens is I go through these phases where I'm like, this person could be my one true love. And then it doesn't work out because we're humans, you know, and then I'm left in a sense of despair because it's like, well, now I don't even know if love exists. But, you know, that specific framework of love that, you know, I feel like that's a very specific framework of love that our brains go to a lot of the times when we even bring up the concept of love. And it just, I don't know. Love is just so much bigger than that.
Yeah, I think so. As far as the singular marriage idea goes, or the soulmate, I know what you're talking about too. Because I saw something on like someone shared something on Facebook, and it was something about like take care of that person that like treats you right, because you're like you'll never get another one. And I had a thought. I was like, who's to say that that's the rule?
Yeah.
That I was like, I've seen people who seem to be very happy in the 10 relationships they've had this year. I'm not saying whether that's good or bad, whether you should do that or not. I'm just saying, and maybe you could say those aren't good ones then because they weren't there. But, you know, who can say? All I know for sure is some human being made that like meme thing. I was like, who has the authority to say that that's how that works?
Mm-hmm.
That you just have like one soulmate floating around. Because then there's like a huge, like kind of like what you were mentioning, there's like a huge force or like a push inside of you that you feel like you have to, like this has to work. And if it doesn't work out, you could be ruining it with your soulmate. No one wants to do that, like obviously. So you feel compelled to, you know, make it work. Probably sometimes making yourself do asinine things or punishing yourself unnecessarily, or dragging that person through shit that didn't need to happen.
Right. If you love me, you'll do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you love me, you let him go. What? No, if I love you, you're staying right here, motherfucker.
Yeah, I want you here, dude. I like love. Yeah. Keep it around.
You love it, let everyone bang it first, then bring it back. No. What the hell kind of logic is that? So yeah, no human being gets to make the rules on how love works and how human connection works. But what would be your better system necessarily, or how do you wish Americans would view it in a world crafted by Cooper? We're all just little. Well, I don't need to hear about everything.
Yeah.
We'll have a whole episode about that. We'll just talk about what we would do if we were God. Maybe we'll do it on this one. Who knows? But as far as how would you prefer people to consider love or go about, you know, in their life? How would they implement love in a more a beneficial way as opposed to how we're doing it now? I know it's kind of a huge undertaking I've just asked of you, but
yeah, and I'm kind of unqualified to be able to answer because I don't, you know, I'm from Wyoming. I've spent my whole life in Wyoming, and I'm only 22 years old. So it's
I want you to have life figured out, Cooper.
Right?
Someone needs to tell me.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think in a perfect world, there would be less focus on there would be less one-track mindedness in giving love, I suppose. That
Okay.
It wasn't something that we saved for that special person that came along, that it was something that is always freely given to anybody. And I wish that, you know, we got rid of some other things like the idea blood runs thicker than water, you know, like that whole thing that your friends will disappear but your family won't or whatever, and yeah, which I mean, like if you love your family and you guys are a good fit, absolutely.
Yeah.
But, you know, family also isn't just about whose vagina you came out of.
Well, plus that's like unfair because you can help who your friends are. You can help who your romantically involved with, you have absolutely no say in where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
You have no, like, just like you have no say over the color of your skin or, what you look like for the most part. Same with family. You have no choice in whose vagina you came out of, whose balls you originated in first.
Yeah.
You have no say in that. So if you come out and you draw a shitty, rotten stick in life and you end up with a bad group, that's unfortunate. That sucks. I'm unfortunately gonna have to let you know you're gonna probably be more behind in life in some things. Maybe not, but probably. It's helpful if you have a good supportive family that helps you and all that. It's good for you mentally and financially, physically, all that. But yeah, no, absolutely. That's another one where, like, I think that's like an older idea, and I think that's one of those ones that some people, especially like now that it's been put out there, I think people accept a little bit more, or way more now, I would say. Especially at least people our age. They're like, no, you can totally ditch your family if they fucking suck.
Yeah, form a new family.
Yeah, people do it all the time. You just find a good grouping of people. Like, that's I have like some family members that obviously are good and close to me that they're always going to be family. But there's like there's at least a handful of people I've run into in my life who are. I figure I'm always going to be friends with them. Will I always be like as close per se? No, but now I consider them to be kind of just part of my world as much as my family members are. So I guess they're family now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice.
It is nice. So when it comes to like the love and stuff like that, I think I'm not proposing that I think we should all be hippy dippy and like hump everybody. We should all just be humping each other. But I think maybe it's just the way people deal with relationships, and especially like here's something what I thought of before too is I was having a conversation the other day, and it had to do with just the fact of like some people. Someone said something to me that was along the lines of like, for some people, a relationship really like when they consider being in a relationship, it's like just kind of banging somebody for a little bit and like texting here and there, but that's it. And so like in their eyes, technically they have gone through like 5 relationships this month. But that's not what I would consider a relationship. Like if that's all we were doing, if I were serious about it or that was my intent, I'd be like, hey, so where's this going?
Yeah.
I don't really know much else about you other than you drink and you have a fondness for peni.
Yeah.
That's all I know about you.
Or at least you like mine. Yeah.
Yeah. I so far have caught you frequenting mine. But that's all I got.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's like even some different ideas about how to even, like, what is a relationship? It's I don't know how or why. It's like we're taking on like some of the most difficult topics that don't really have a conclusion, and then we're just kind of like, so what do you think? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, there is no conclusion to most things. Otherwise, life would have ended a while ago. We would have figured everything else out, and then
everything would be perfect already.
Yeah, well, everything would be perfect, and then it would never be perfect for humans. Perfection would never be perfect for human beings.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. I think humans will always have something to either improve or to bitch about. And in no particular order. But I think that's kind of like what we're here for. I'm not saying I know, I am not on, I don't have God on my contact list. We don't visit frequently about what's going on here, but I can say for sure that I think that's like at some point in time, and maybe not, because like it's hard right now. Like in our current times, we're bitching about the things that are going on now. Granted, there's a level of complicated that wasn't exactly present way back in the day, which maybe it was. I don't know. Maybe like our caveman ancestors were bitching about politics.
Yeah, have humans ever really changed?
Only we're like, it's so complicated now, which it's complicated because of all the rules we've made for ourselves and the human-made structures. Like we're like living like after all of this human history, we're living with a lot of these consequences and a lot of these structures we've built. We don't know, do we keep this thing? Do we let go of this ideology or whatever? So we have a lot of like complicated like little things like that. But it was probably equal like our early humans were probably just had some complications, like some politics, like maybe one of the cavemen was getting rowdy and trying to take over people's caves or something, some tribalism there. But, you know, we didn't have like saber-toothed tiger stalking us in the night, so.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, the complications have changed throughout time. But the way I started this was imagining that it was like sometime in history where like maybe there was like a little government, you know, contact. There was no internet or anything like that. So, you know, once in a while, someone came through with some newspaper from somewhere and was like, "Hey, did you know this guy was our president?" And we're like, "Huh, no, I didn't know."
That's crazy.
That's whack, man. Like, you're over there like listing the presidents, or you're like, I don't know, doing something, and people come in like it's been like a year, and you're in some podunk town. They're like, "Dude, Lincoln died a year ago." Little Jimmy's been writing letters to him for years.
Someone's been writing back too.
Yeah, that's the weird part. Yeah, but I don't know, just imagining this like place where they got like, you know, some farms, everything's pretty nice, pretty simple. I think it's gonna be like it is today. There's gonna be a large portion of the population of people like working their jobs, and, you know, in their case, it's a little bit more about survival in a different kind of way. Like, they're literally growing their own food. Our case is we go to work to make money to buy the food.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, like, say you have like this serene field. There's like some plots of land. There's some farmsteads around. Like, it's like this really small community in this pretty rural area.
Mm-hmm.
You could almost consider a lot of that to like almost be like really nice. Like, humans have everything, kind of, and like, maybe that, you know, it doesn't, you know, all of your needs are met. Everything's pretty good. A human would never be okay with that, because you're always going to have a tanner over there or something like that goes, "I just want to go to the city. I don't know what I want." Or you're going to have someone else who goes, "I could improve upon this," or "I could do this better." Or then you're going to have a lot of people that are just bitching. They don't really have anything to bitch about. They don't know why they're bitching. They think they do, but really, it just feels good to bitch.
Yeah, they're just talking.
Yeah, they're just talking. Maybe they don't even believe half of it. Who knows? But I don't think if we found perfection, we would even know it when we saw it. I think we'd look at perfection and go, "Ugh, well, I could do it better." So
that's interesting.
I don't know. I maybe I don't think that's pessimistic, because I think I see it as like in a good way. Like, human beings are just these weird, starting out monkey creatures, like, just at one point we were just banging things with a club, and now it's like, oh, we like, now we're talking about stuff like, do you want to augment your body with like a neural link? Do you want to let Elon Musk put something in your brain, like start being superhumans or whatever? And now we're like, we could totally nuke the shit out of a planet, and literally we could take a planet, and I don't know if we could destroy a planet yet. We don't have Death Star technology, but we could fuck it up for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So
still recovering from Chernobyl.
Yeah, dude, there's some places we just bomb the shit out of just to test just to test bombs. You probably can't live there for like another couple hundred years.
Oh, yeah. At least, dude.
And like bombs we've set off underground and shit. What does that do? You like set off a fucking hydrogen bomb underground. The Earth is like, "What the fuck are you doing?" No creature's done that before. I've had volcanoes. Okay, volcanoes were the worst.
Is this shit not enough for you, bro?
Yeah. I literally send lava out of the ground, and you just have to try to one-up me?
Yeah.
That's humans. Yeah.
I literally tremble all the time and
Yeah.
destroy your buildings. You gotta make something better than that?
You guys used to fucking kill other people to make me stop doing that. Okay? Now you're just doing it all willy-nilly. Yeah. So, exactly. That's just it. I don't think humans will ever be satisfied.
Yeah.
But who knows where it takes us? Like, next thing you know, we're like, I don't know, we end up creating another dimension. There's no other animal on this planet that's over here worried about other dimensions.
True. Well, and I mean, we already kind of are with, like, the internet.
Yeah, we have, like, an entirely new world. Like, we could create a fake world with virtual intelligence and stuff. Or, like, VR, like, virtual reality stuff. Like, right now, it's just goggles you put on and all that. But when you put them on, like, at one point, people, like, they just put, like, a cell phone in there. Just look at the cell phone. But it was just, you're still looking at a screen. Now it's way fucking cooler. You put it on, and it's like you can like literally look around and just see all this shit, and like you're actually there.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, you still have the goggles on, and you're still kind of bound to some restrictions, maybe some cords, depending on which one you have. But where does it go from there? What happens when you can like plug something into the back of your brain, and you're in like a whole new world or something like that? You've literally created a whole new world, and it, like say you could get along in there just as well as you could in the real world. Everything felt normal.
I mean, yeah, man. I mean, that's kind of the premise of the Matrix, you know.
Yeah. But I had a thought. Would you want to play scary games anymore if that was it? Like if you could like plug it in and it was like real life?
No. No, absolutely. I don't even want to play scary games now, dude.
No. Even with like the virtual reality stuff I've played with now, fucking is scary.
Can you imagine like playing like Slenderman in VR or something, dude?
No, but that's just it. Like some of the games I was playing, like I know it's like on the PlayStation virtual reality thing, and there's like a demo game. I can't remember what it's called. And yeah, you're just in, like the fucking creepy like underway, like this like, and there's like, I don't know, it's like this like you're going down like into a subway kind of like, and there's like an old like ruined train station, but there's just like one of those places you just open the door and you can like hear like breathing and stuff, and you're like walking through it. And the hard part is this: you have two options. If you keep walking out of there, you'll make it out alive. But the whole time you can like hear like this breathing and like walking behind you. And if you turn around, there's like this guy with this fucking crazy rabbit mask on and starts like axing you. Yeah, and I screamed like a little girl the first time I did it. And so, do you want to take that and make it even more real?
No way, dude. No way.
Just screaming. You fucking just take the game out.
Bro, and what if you get so scared that you forget you're in a game at all? Because it's so real, and you're just like trapped forever in this. That's bunny mask-looking dude is chasing you down with an axe the rest of your life.
Yeah, what if, like, especially like you put in like say like a post-apocalyptic game, and you're like life is just tough in this game. It's like crazy. You've built like this little shelter for yourself. Like you find yourself like kind of shivering like underneath this thing, and you're all cold, and you're like, I'm gonna starve and die here, aren't I? And then all of a sudden it's been like hours. You're like, oh fuck, this is a game, and you take it out. And you're like, why was I suffering? Why was I? The game was me suffering. Why would I do that to myself?
Just played myself, bro. Frickin'
Just
darn.
Set myself on an emotional roller coaster for no reason.
Well, and I wonder if it's like, you know how like they say that, you know, Inception terminology, you know, 24 hours in a dream is a day in real life or whatever, you know. And you go into these virtual worlds and it's like a dream where you only spend like 2 hours of your normal life in there, but you feel like you've been in there for a week.
Oh Christ. Like, yeah, well, what if you could get away with like, man, your life, would it feel like it was going on forever though? Like you just put in the game thing and like, yeah, you spend like, say, you know, because I know there's been times like, say, you know, I had like a whole evening off. I felt like it. I've spent hours sitting there playing a video game. So like, what if you were gonna sit there and play like 6 hour stretch? Like, and then yeah, in the video game, that's like 2 years.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ,
that'd be so disorienting, dude.
And wouldn't that be awful too? Like, say, it's like Sims. It's like just living your life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That'd be a crazy game. Just put it in. You're like, you just click it in, and you're just behind the wheel, like in traffic, going to your office job.
I would love to play The Sims. VR, dude. I would love that. That'd be my favorite.
But what if you had like a whole family? You had like, it's been like, for you, it's been like years. You have like this family, this like nice life, and then all of a sudden, like, eventually you realize, oh yeah, it's another moment of, oh fuck, I'm playing a video game, aren't I? And you take it out, and it's only like you're all of a sudden you again. You're like, I forgot who I really was.
Yeah, Rick and Morty does a bit on that, bro. What's that video game that he plays?
Oh damn, yeah. Of course, Rick and Morty probably did it first. We're sitting here going, oh wow, they already did it. I forgot about that one. How does that go?
Well, they just do that. They plug themselves into the game, and then they can play a whole life. And then when they die, they get kicked out automatically.
Yeah. See, that would be, I guess, what I would want. You don't want to actually die in real. Like, yeah. I mean, there's like that anime Sword Art Online, but they get stuck in the video game.
Okay.
And then if you die in the video game, you die in real life. So they're
Who
like,
designed that shit?
yeah,
bro?
it was just some guy who made this like awesome game, and he's like, yeah, no, I was planning this the whole entire time.
This is a genocide.
Yeah, I just did this for fun, and I want to see what you guys do. So have fun.
Damn.
Yeah, that would be that. Okay, that's like one of the worst case scenarios. But yeah, imagine that would be such like a sad feeling though. Like you like take the game out, and it's like you have like your kids, or like like a whole family. You, like unplug it, and then you're like, shit. I think all I was gonna do was masturbate after this.
Yeah.
I got nothing. Man, I got sucked into that. Now I'm just thinking about that.
Oh man.
Fuck everything else. We need to do this and have like a new video game and just live in the video game.
Mm-hmm.
That's another fear. What happens if technology gets better than real life?
I don't know. Would you move to a virtual world if it were better than real life?
That's the hard part though, is it's virtual, so it's like assuming I mean, I guess it depends on the game and like what you're able to do. I don't know that I'd want to participate in a game that was just real life. Like you plug it in and now it's like, oh, I got to go get a job. I got to worry about who I am and what I'm doing. That one seems silly.
Bit pedantic.
Yeah. I was already doing that. I don't need a video game. Maybe it would be fun in the one context. We know, well, the one reason we would use that video game, and I promise, the absolutely only reason we'd use that video game is to let out some of the darker side of the human mind. Like,
oh shit!
It's fucking just Cooper takes his helmet off, and I'm like, "Hey, Cooper, how was your game?" And you're like, "Good." It was good. But like, rewind it back, you just fucking lose your temper and start like a mass murder in the streets. You just just terrible impulse or thought you've ever had, just you let it unleashed, and then you just quit the game, start a new game.
Yeah, I'm gonna delete that file.
Oh my god! What if like you put on your friend's helmet and like. You were like, "Hey, I'm gonna go take the leak. We'll play this after I do something with it." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I just put the helmet on anyways. And you just come in, "Tanner, what did I say?" And I'm just like taking it off, going, "What the fuck were you doing in there, Cooper?" There was like 5 people chained up to a radiator. I told you not to put it on.
Yeah.
Well, look, just don't do it in real life, and we're cool.
Like, you do not want to check the basement, buddy.
Yeah. Just keep it in the video games, Cooper. But isn't that what people would do? That like, okay, yeah, too pedantic to actually try in that game to like get a better job or get that promotion. People would use it to abuse shit.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, definitely. I'd go in and like, just for shits and giggles, just like put it on, start a new game, go get a job somewhere, and then just fucking just whack, punch someone right in the face. And just, I don't know. I wanted to see what happened.
Yeah. He didn't do anything, so that was cool.
What if you could play with other people though? Like you plug it in and like you're playing with real people too.
That would be. Oh, there are so many
weird
dynamics
Yeah.
that would change, man. Oh my gosh.
We meet up like like just get a group of friends or something, or like maybe you run into someone and like they got like a different look, you know, it doesn't look like, you know, just different name, all that stuff, and they just like fucking like slowly murder you or something, just something fucked up. And then you run into like in real life, you meet someone and they say something like, "Oh yeah, my they just mentioned something about, oh yeah, add me on some so and so whatever Xbox or whatever. My gamer tag's Blue Dragon 72 or something like that." You're like, "It's you." You're sick. That'd be a whole new dynamic. Multiplayer would get dangerous. Man, where do we go from here now?
Yeah.
We capped off.
That's there's not much farther you can go after you start talking about murder and virtual people that you know.
Yeah, and listen, it's not that I want to do that stuff. I just am being realistic, and I know what human beings are going to do, because human beings are weird.
Yeah.
And I know that all human beings get some funny thoughts in their heads that luckily most don't act on. That's where the video game part gets different, where we all know there's no consequences, and it's because isn't that one of the one things you've always wanted in life? I don't know about you, but me, would be to just, in general, be able to like save and load your life. That way you could like save it here, go do something stupid, then if you like die, you just get to reload and go, okay, well, that was something.
I don't know, man. I think that would take a lot of intrigue out of being alive.
Oh, it would definitely.
You know? Yeah.
Because there has to be, like, if you could do that in real life, like, it's fun to think about it in a video game context, but then to unplug it and then you're back in the world of consequences. But it has to be that way, because if there was a world of no consequences, there would be no lessons learned. Life wouldn't be a struggle at all, or a lesson or whatever. Do you think life's a lesson? What is the meaning of life, Cooper? Since we're taking on huge tasks.
The meaning of life is to give me all of your money.
That's what all this was about. We're gonna have his Venmo and his PayPal in the link in the description,
and all of my bank account details, so that you can wire me directly.
Oh, you gotta be careful with that. They might take money out if they know too much. They might make some withdrawals.
They better not, dude. Then I'll know their banking number.
Is that how? Oh,
I don't know.
Where did that money go? Oh, they withdrew it at some random ATM. Fuck! I was really hoping they put it right into their account. What a good thief.
Yeah. It's smart. Covers his tracks, man.
Covers his track. Yeah. Damn, we went off on a tangent on that one. I didn't even mean for that one to turn into anything. That one just took on a life of its own.
It just kind of happened, man.
Mm-hmm. I liked the thought, though. It was a fun roller coaster of emotions.
A little interesting philosophical experiment.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. I don't know. I kind of think, though, that, like, if we had, like, this large virtual... Sorry, I'm going to continue this tangent just for, like, one more second here.
Perfectly fine. We already went down. Get it out while you got to get it out now.
Okay, cool, yeah. So I kind of think that if, like, there was this virtual massive multiplayer online game or whatever, that the consequences of life would just follow us into the game. That we would still be like, oh, shit, I have to treat this person nicely because outside of the game... they'll know that I did this, and I'll face the consequences then, you know?
Yeah, that's the one. That's what what I was thinking, too, a little bit when I was proposing. All of a sudden, I was like, oh, shit, what if you're playing with real players? Like, at first, I was thinking of it in like a, you know, you're playing this, like, sim virtual reality game, but everyone's just an NPC. They're just computer. Like, they're not real people. Mm. They're all... Don't get me wrong, the game's, like, designed very well. They all feel and look and seem like people, but they're just, you know...
There's code.
Yeah, they're just code. It does get weirder if you start introducing multiplayer stuff. Mm. Like, all of a sudden, especially, like, if you introduce the element of, like, pain, like, you could actually feel pleasure, pain.
Oh, God.
No one would want to play Call of Duty. God, people would take off their thing and, like, have PTSD.
Honestly.
Or, like, what if, like, you're playing, like, back in the day, like, like, Halo 3 first came out. Me and my friends would played it religiously. And something every young gamer does that everyone hates is team killing. Or something I would do on Halo is I'd like prompt somebody to kill me because, like, you know, if you killed a teammate, they could boot you. So me being like a little kid, I absolutely fucking hate it now when people do it. But like when I was a little kid, there's some humor in it where I'd have my pistol and I'd kind of shoot them a couple times, and then they'd get pissed off. Like, I didn't kill them, I just shoot them near to the brink of their life, and then they'd get pissed, turn around, like shotgun me in the face, and then I'd boot them.
Like, haha, you got banned.
Ha! You fell for my trap.
Yeah.
Which dick move. But what if you did that in a VR thing? Like I'm like, hey Cooper, blam! You're like, just shoot you right in the chest. Oh fuck! I forgot the game we were playing.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Okay, Cooper, this is just a question. I'm offering this out of friendship. Do you want me to shoot you in the face and just end it now, or do you want to, like, wait till you die? Or are you going to take the code out?
Let's just wait. We'll buff this one out. I feel like in, like, 30 or 40 seconds, I'll be back to full health. No worries.
It's just, I don't want to watch it. You'll respawn, literally, if I shoot you in the face. I know you have reservations about someone shooting you in the face, as you would in real life. That being said, it'll speed things along so much faster. Yeah, so it's introducing weird shit like that.
Yeah.
All video game dynamic would change. I would assume your life would probably change in some... Because, like, say, like, you know, I don't know how much you play video games in general.
I play a little bit, yeah.
A little bit here and there, you dabble.
Well, so I play a lot of video games, but not a lot of video games in the sense of I play a lot of different video games. I play 2 or 3 video games a lot.
Which ones?
I play a lot of Rocket League.
Okay, me too.
That's like the main one.
I didn't play a lot of that until like my Dustin, who's been on the podcast a couple times. He was like, "Hey, let's just download a couple games," and I think one of them was Fortnite, which I'm like,
First-person shooters. Well, that one's a third person.
That one is a third person, and get to build stuff. So get it right.
That's true.
It's true.
It's like Legos meets World War II.
I think Rocket. Yeah, you're not wrong. Rocket League feels a little different because it's like almost like you get fit. Like you always get better at a game, obviously, and no matter what game you're playing, it just feels like it's got like such a good learning curve, and like your skill actually does matter. It's not about how much you upgraded in the game. I'm sure there's, there are upgrades and stuff you can do. Is there upgrades that really affect your car a lot? Really?
Just like cosmetic stuff.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I was asking because I was going to be embarrassed if I've this whole time been trekking it all by myself. I've played with the aesthetics, but I didn't see anything that offered me like, you can go faster if you upgrade this, or you can, I don't know, any kind of, anything that would really help you, actually.
Yeah.
It's just your skill is all that matters. And that's what I like about it, too. I like watching myself slowly get better. And then sometimes once in a while still scoring on myself.
Yeah, that always happens, man. I don't care how good you get at that game, man. You will always score on yourself.
And fuck the slow-mo, like, capturing it afterward, like, before the next round starts, it, like, slow-mo. Because then, like, sometimes I've fucked up. And now I know everyone on their screens is watching me accidentally jump up, bounce the ball into my own goal, and like into my team. And I'm like,
and then the people on the other team are like, ha ha ha, watch it again, you loser,
stupid bitch.
Yeah,
yeah. Do you want to take one more break and then come back and do some more, and we'll see where it takes us?
I would love to take another break.
I'm only suggesting it because I have to piss.
Okay,
but I'm also we're enjoying some Stella Artois. Is that how you say it?
I think so. Artois.
It's because when I was a little kid, I used to see Stella Artois.
Artois.
Artois. So, but then I got to later in life, I realized it might be fancier, so I just started saying Artois. That's my history.
I like it. That's good.
Yeah, I'm on my third one. So we're enjoying this fine. I don't know, but this one isn't even regular. It's the summer limited edition.
Yeah, Solstice Lager.
Premium golden lager.
Made with the tears of the sun.
Jesus Christ.
How'd they get those?
Yeah, I wish I hadn't powered through it like that. All right, we're going to be back from this break in just 1 second. I thought I had something better to end that with, but no.
It's a pretty good, pretty good pause.
Thank you.
Transition, yeah.
Damn, I tried to capture it. Yeah. Cooper soundtrack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's my beatboxing.
That's where my career is headed. Everything has been building up to this.
Just ASMR, water drinking. Ooh, shivers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is well, first of all, we're back from our break.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, and Cooper's still here. We didn't lose him it hasn't snowed yet.
Mm-mm.
'Tis September, everybody. It's time for that. Well, I guess in Wyoming it's time for that. But this is a special drink I'm prepared for this finale.
Looks like apple juice.
It's not apple juice. It's actually beer.
Is it also the Stella Artois?
It's the Stella Artois as well.
Mm.
But I added a special seasoning to it.
Cayenne pepper.
Yeah, it's cayenne pepper. Make it spicy.
Yeah.
No, I made this concoction I call beer-quila.
Ooh.
Can you guess what the ingredient is?
Whiskey. No,
Real-
I'm just fucking
Really?
with you.
Okay, I was like, really?
I'm gonna guess tequila. Final answer.
Tequila. Yeah, no, I put tequila in a beer.
How is it?
Do you want to taste it, or do you not want to involve yourself in that part of the world?
I mean, I'll taste it.
You don't have to drink the whole thing. If you just down it, though, props to you. Also, I have a place. I'll find you a place to sleep. But
it's not bad. Kind of just tastes like bread.
that's not bad. Okay, get all fucked up on bread.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're back, and I mean, we've just fucking rambled about all sorts of stuff. Like I said, I haven't podcasted in it feels like in forever, but I know it hasn't really been that long necessarily. But shaking the cobwebs off, trying to get right back into it. So you're my guinea pig of helping me with that. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
My honor.
Mm-hmm.
If I had my cap on still.
Yeah, you tip your hat. Yeah. So as the gentleman.
Right.
And so we're, it's this one I haven't structured perfect. I had no idea. I was like, I'm just going to sit down and fucking ramble with Cooper.
Mm.
And I think we did. I think we've been doing that just fine. Something I did want to ask you about was what do you want to work towards, though?
Like, what do you mean?
Okay, so we talked about passion earlier, like jobs, all that. What is your goal in life? Okay, what are you working towards? Is there anything that you really want to get done, or do you want to do anything do you want to do YouTube and podcasting?
I don't know. I don't know if I have enough shit to say when it comes to making a YouTube video or a podcast or something like that.
I'm worried about that too.
Yeah, I could sit here and say a million things, but there might not be a point to any of it. So it's kind of well, be like Joe Pera talks you to sleep kind of thing.
Maybe that's your angle. You just talk, and that's what you do. You don't have to worry about what you say. You put people to sleep. That's your whole goal. I don't know what you say though, because you might get the couple that say he was terrible. I listened to him the whole time. He was so interesting.
Yeah,
and they liked it.
I couldn't fall asleep.
I couldn't sleep at all. He was talking about babies being born. I had to know. He was getting really in depth. I don't know. But goal wise, is there anything in particular you want to accomplish? Is there any job you want to do? Is there what's next for Cooper Karp?
Well, so I think that, earlier when we were talking about some stuff, when we were getting more into the bigger questions of just connectedness as humans or whatever, I feel like I kind of circled around this idea of where I'm not really searching for a career or I'm not really searching to do any sort of branching out in the world at the moment. Right now, I'm just focusing on just trying to I'm trying to figure out how to word this because it's always kind of nerve-wracking to bring this sort of thing up. But
no, we've talked about some pretty we talk about subjects that have been pretty real, but none of us have exactly come up with our own cliff notes and talking points on it. So we've kind of just kind of picked at them a little bit, kind of poked at it a little bit.
Yeah.
But I haven't really ended on anything necessarily or any final conclusions. So I understand we've done that a lot. This is another big one. But so that's just where you're at right now. That's fair. I have not worded everything the way I will look back on this later and be like, what the fuck, Tanner? But be that as it may.
Okay. Well, so right now, kind of the focus of my life is more intrinsic and on it's trying to study a little bit more of the Bible and the life of Jesus. That's kind of been what I've been focusing on lately. Which is, I don't know.
So, okay, this is for real, a French, podcast aside, promotional camera aside. I don't know if I've ever really asked you this before or really gotten into it, but what the religious aspect, that's where I'm headed, is so what is your history with that and what has kind of drawn you to this position, I guess, really?
So okay. So I've kind of had a long-standing sort of relationship with Christianity as far as the church goes,
okay.
Where I mean, I was baptized in the Catholic Church or whatever. That didn't mean anything. My family never went to the Catholic Church growing up. I mean, I did the Sunday school classes or whatever.
Sure.
Where they're this is what you have to do when you do these rituals, like communion and going to confess your sins to the priest or whatever.
So okay, it was Catholicism was your family's bag, I guess. That was what you were raised in, technically.
Kind of. I mean, it comes from my dad's side of the family, and it's kind of a weird situation where my dad wasn't really involved in our lives growing up. He and my mom divorced before I can even remember him being around.
Sure.
But he, technically we were baptized in the Catholic Church, and my mom was considerate enough to take us to the classes and be like, okay, you can make this choice,
Okay.
But we kind of faded from that. Growing up, my mom was in one of the more laxed branches of Christianity. Like she went to the Presbyterian church growing up, which is like it's like a cousin of like the Lutheran church, that came from after the Reformation from the Catholic Church, you know. And so we eventually, through my sister, she had friends who went to the Lutheran church in Newcastle, and they would do a youth group once a week. And so that's when I started getting into it and like learning a little bit about it. I was only in 7th grade at the time, so like my ability to really understand a lot of the big concepts that are talked about in the Bible and in Christianity is very limited, you know. So I had the things where I was like, like during cross country practices, I was slow, so I'd be alone in my runs. And I would just the whole time I would just like have like this ongoing conversation with God, which looking back on it is probably more of just like an internal dialogue that I thought was directed toward God, but
who can say? And those, especially what you were just running, like anything that helps you just keep doing that thing.
Yeah.
Perfect. You've nailed it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it made me happy too,
Yeah. So why not?
It's a win-win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay.
And so then I kind of half-assed went to youth group and learned a little bit about church and all that stuff for a little while. And then once I was in high school, they have, in the Lutheran church that I went to, they have these things called confirmation classes, which basically they get a little bit more in-depth and start to unravel more of the explanations of the condition of being a human to you so that you can make the decision, yes, I believe in this view of the human condition, and I believe that Jesus's resurrection helps to provide a hope for a future from this human condition. And I ended up not following through on the classes just because I was lazy, which also kind of doubles as a way of just not committing to a relationship with Jesus. And so after I bailed on doing confirmation classes, I started getting into some a lot broader and in some ways darker forms of spirituality.
Do you have an example?
Um,
Just out of curiosity, because I know that a lot of us, probably especially in our youth, stray from the things that we knew while we were younger and kind of assume that we are in need of more knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So we go out and we go, pursue some things, we look into stuff, and it's good, but I also know that there's things you can run into or like look into that, you could attach yourself to kind of and probably end up down a darker path, or you just go down a path that might be kind of like fruity or whatever. I don't know. You could end up wherever, who knows? But I just, as an example, if you had one where it took you as far as some of the darker places you might have been.
So, I mean, there are a lot of sort of spiritual philosophies that come from men like Aleister Crowley.
Yeah. Crowley's a big one.
What's the other dude? I don't know. Doesn't matter to me anymore. Maybe like Aldous Huxley or something like that. Maybe that's his name.
I have a book. It's called The Book of Abramelin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I have it. I'll show it to you and all that. It's literally just ancient text about and who knows? I haven't even looked into it. I ordered it off of the idea that it was interesting, but it is like it's having to do with like biblical scriptures and yet also getting more into like the occult, the more of the magic, whatever that all means. That sense.
Yeah, so that's kind of the darker hole that I went down for a little while, where they're like, if you see 11:11 on a clock, it means you're in tune with the universe, and like, if you envision something happening, it will come true, and basically, like what they do is in these occult practices, they put they basically say, as a human, I am God, and they take scripture out of context to kind of prove that point. And so, like, you're going down this hole and you're like, well, they're using biblical scripture,
Mm.
and so it's easy to kind of fall astray in that regard. And so I started getting into that deeper stuff, and this was also when I started getting really into like psychedelics and like exploring altered states of consciousness and all that kind of stuff. And in the moment, I thought that I was doing something good for me. I thought that I was like, oh, I'm seeing the much bigger picture about all these things. But really, I was getting trapped inside the musings of my own head, if that makes sense.
Do you feel that way about psychedelics still now? You can answer that one later if you want to, wherever it fits into your life story. But out of curiosity, I was just wondering about your thoughts on psychedelics.
I haven't done any psychedelics since I've had this transformation out of the occult. So I can't give you a definitive answer on whether psychedelics are a good thing or a bad thing, but I know that in my experience, they were a bad thing for me at the place that I was.
Mm.
And really, like, because it's like when you see a beautiful painting, all you see is the beauty. You don't see if it's actually fucked up or whatever, or if it's giving you a message that is not a message of love.
If the history behind it was dark or something or whatever.
Yeah, you don't see that when you just see a beautiful image. And when you take psychedelics, everything becomes a beautiful image. And
Okay.
And so it's hard to be able to discern whether what you're being told is something good or bad, in the sense that when you see these things, they tend to become like examples ingrained in your brain.
Mm.
And so when you think of love, maybe your idea of love is something that's like really nice and it cares about other people, but the examples you have attached to it and how to show people what you think of love don't match with your ideas of what love is.
Okay, and I think I just want to see if I can like I'll just explain it and see if I can get it to where I think this fits in.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been under. I still don't know how I feel about it, because you talk to some people about psychedelics and they're either for or against. I don't know for sure, because there's some people that say doing psychedelics opens up this door, and it's you communicating with something beyond. But the other thought is that so that's on one hand. On the other hand, is it's just a chemical reaction. It's just in your brain. It's just this thing you imagine. It's the same as drinking. Drinking isn't. No one ever says you drink and you're connected to the clockwork elves in the universe or some other god or whatever like that. You're just drunk. It's just a chemical reaction. That's all it is. You're experiencing the euphoria of that, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. That's
where I'm torn. I don't know. I think psychedelics have their place. I personally see them as like anything else, something you can abuse. But I think that unlike a lot of other substances, I see it as kind of a more positive potential in kind of opening your mind a little bit and exploring something. Sometimes exploring a dark path, but you go on that journey and you come back and I don't know, and maybe it's bad in that you're do you think you're irreparably different after doing all these psychedelics? Like, I feel like when you experience that, I don't know. I mean, it's like any other substance. If you do it and someone else hasn't done it, you try to explain it to them and they don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But does that irreparably, once you do it, does that irreparably change you? Now you have that perspective. You've changed your brain. You've altered it in a way that it never really would have before.
I think that's something that's hard to know, because we like in my example, I don't have a me to compare myself to that never did psychedelics.
Sure, that's the tricky part.
So how can I say I am irreparably damaged when, I don't see, there's no concrete proof that I wouldn't still be the way that I am if I hadn't taken psychedelics,
Yeah, no, of course. It's just, I think this is the thing where I wonder. I do wonder sometimes, and I wonder, I'm like, for all some of the praise I give of trying stuff, I'm like, I wonder what I would be if I'd never tried anything. I wonder who Tanner would be if I had never done a substance before. I can take the good and the bad from having done it. I wonder what would my brain state be like.
Well, what's kind of interesting about that is there are stories in the Bible of people having these psychedelic-like trances that they go into, which they describe it differently because they're not like it's a chemical reaction in my brain. What they're saying in the Bible is that God took my spirit and he went and he showed me these things, like he showed me the future, or he showed me, like when Jesus is in the wilderness for 40 days and the Satan comes and like tries to tempt him, he takes Jesus and puts him on top of the temple in Jerusalem. That's probably not literal. Jesus probably didn't, he probably wasn't in the middle of nowhere in the desert and then walked 80 miles or whatever, probably farther than that.
Or some just giant serpent being just grabbed him and plucked him right up on top of this temple. Like, that probably didn't, like, that. I'm sure that's not what that, and like that.
Not
that,
physically
yeah.
anyway. Yeah.
Right.
But like maybe like in his spirit, it showed him this thing. Because that's, and it's kind of tricky because this is the English translation, but it does say that, the Satan took him to the top of the mountain and showed him all of the kingdoms of the earth, and said that these could be yours if you just bow down and follow me or whatever. But anyway, what was the main point that I was talking about?
Sorry, I took it off on a tangent on hallucinogens and psychedelics, which we can take back more onto. But you were mentioning about your having gone down the dark path, or what you feel was more of the occult, more of the that in that vein of religion.
Yeah, man. Well, and I had so it was fun for a while,
Of course.
Because you start saying these things that you just read about online, and you're like, wow, that sounds really spiritually profound. That makes me sound really wise, and so you just repeat these things.
Especially if it's like this new thing you're learning. It's probably nothing that was taught to you as a kid. You learn something for the first time, and you're like,
yeah,
this is true.
Well, yeah, and then you kind of get validation from other people too, and you're like, "Wow, this is cool. I feel really wise," And it's a little ego inflating, but that's kind of beside the point. But after like a year or like a year and a couple months or something, I had a couple weird experiences where, excuse me, like my first weird experience was I started getting into meditation. And not meditation in the sense of I pay attention to what I'm thinking. Meditation in the sense of I try to shut out thoughts. I try not to think at all. Which is totally not the point of meditation as like a spiritual practice. But anyway.
I'm sorry. Like that, I think that's a good topic to talk about meditation, but we can get to that after you finish.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I just was like going to go off on a tangent about what I think meditation, and it's like, well, that's a topic in and of itself. We could talk about meditation, but
okay, yeah. So the way that I was doing meditation is I would just like try not to think, right? And my brain started doing weird things, like legit. And this sounds absolutely bananas. Like when I would tell people this, they'd be like, "Bro, you need to lay off the weed. Like, you're fucking weird right now."
That would be drugs you're on, sir.
Yeah. But I would sit down and I would put like this special kind of music on or whatever, 432 hertz or whatever people in that spiritual community were saying was like the perfect tuning or whatever. And my brain, I'd close my eyes and my head would stay still, but inside my head, it would feel like my brain would wiggle back and forth. Which is so, I know, it sounds so stupid to say out loud.
I didn't say that. It's just that's just like, I guess something I'd never experienced. I have no frame of reference necessarily. I don't think, or at least I've never paid attention to it like, that way. I've never analyzed it.
I'm trying to think of something to compare it to.
Like someone shakes you around, your brain just jiggles.
Yeah, but it's like a vibration. It's not like a, because like when you get drunk and high at the same time, you just get the spins and your brain feels like it's going whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, and fuck that. By the way, I used to think getting faded was a cool, fun thing. It's a quick trip to puking. If anyone's wondering.
Yeah, and then you just sit there and you're like, oh God, when does it end?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like this was different because it wasn't like my brain was like getting bigger and smaller or spinning. It was actually just like shaking back and forth really lightly, and it felt really cool.
Sure.
I'm not gonna lie about that. So that's one experience that I had that was kind of weird, and that kind of led me down looking more into these sort of ideas of like astral projection.
Yeah. Okay.
And like forcing your spirit out of your body. And I remember two experiences that I had. One, I went downstairs and to my bedroom, and I laid down on my bed, and immediately I all of a sudden like fell asleep, and I knew that I was asleep, but it felt like my spirit was outside my body. Like I got up, even though I was still laying on the bed. And I walked outside of my room, and I saw an orb of light that was chilling there. And it started to like come towards me, and it started to freak me the hell out.
As it should. That's
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So I was like, please go back to your body, like snap back into it. This is fucking weird. And that was the first weird experience I had. And then I had a very similar experience the second time where the same thing happened. I laid down and immediately fell asleep or went into my spirit or whatever, started walking around, and I walked around this corner to my laundry room, and I saw behind a bunch of clothes that were hanging, I saw a little boy that was there crying. And I was like, oh, it still makes me feel weird. Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna ignore this. Yeah, because I don't know what this little boy's deal is. He's crying, so I want to go help, but at the same time, I don't know what the fuck's going on right now.
Yeah, I've seen too many horror shows. I know where this goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going back to my body, or whatever, and so that happened as well. And once that stuff started happening, like I also started having like really vivid and dark dreams, and there would be creatures that would like come and like fuck with me while I was sleeping. And at this point I'm in it, and I didn't know how to make it stop. And I remember I went to go get food at Subway, and one of the people in the community happened to walk in at the same time, and his wife goes up to the counter to order food, but he comes over to me, and he just whispers over my shoulder into my ear, and he says, I had a talk with the devil last night, and he says he wants your soul. And
what the fuck?
Yeah. Dude, you don't even know, bro. It was like literally everything inside of me just dropped, and like I freaked out. Like that was scary. And so immediately I called my Aunt Molly, and I said, this man said this to me, and I don't know what to do. And she said, well, if something like that happens, you need to say, get thee behind me, Satan. Like I belong to the Lord. And my Aunt Molly has been in like the Christian community for a long time. She knows a lot of stuff, and she has some friends who also have been in the community for a long time and have established a good connection with God. And she called me a couple nights later, and she said, I just had a friend tell me a message from God for you. And I was like, okay. And she told me, she was like, you need to stop doing what you're doing. You need to get away from that practice as quickly as you can. And at this point, I was already starting to leave the practice after the dude was like, I had to talk with the devil and he wants your soul. Like, I was like, okay, I'm getting rid of all this stuff. Like, it freaked me out well enough that it was real.
So was this guy, did you recognize him as like anyone else, or was he just a stranger to you, or?
No, he's someone that I knew.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So like, do you think it was just like really, was it just a strange coincidence, or do you think it was like someone that was, like supposed to be there? Like, it wasn't like just some strange apparition. Like, you knew the person, it was a person, but it was like, was it circumstance, or was it like a sign, or was it just circumstance? Was it bad timing, or was it like, you really do think it had to do with like that event? Like,
I think it was real, dude. I honestly think that he had a talk with the devil, and that he was like, go tell this kid that I want his soul, freak him out so that he doesn't go to God and that he just wallows in his own fear. So I have him,
And I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just had like a thought about that of like, I'm not really the most spiritual person. That's a whole topic in and of itself. I will just say that I don't know what's all going on. I don't know what's real, what's not real, who's playing the cards right now. Like, I don't know what's going on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So in that context, for me, it's like, I don't know. Is that just crazy circumstance where it's like, fuck, dude, that was the wrong thing to say at that time? Like, if you could have gone over and whispered anything in that guy's ear, anything but that, you could have whispered in, like, if you were gonna, I guess, so choose to whisper into a person's ear, I guess, you just whisper up like, smell my finger.
Right.
I don't know. You could have just done anything, but it's, it could have been circumstance. Or is it like, if it is on the other hand, then the way I imagine it is, again, kind of like, I don't think if there is a God, if all of this is going on and it's real, I don't think that it's exactly like he was down in his basement literally talking to this like devil. I think if that were to be true, probably the way it would happen is something that feels a little bit more natural, that convinces you. Because if some just like spirit just popped up out of the ground and started talking to you, I imagine it's like a movie, like when you see people like doing something, you're like, oh, well, don't do that. Like, obviously that's a trap.
Yeah.
That would never work that way. Humans are dumb, but not that dumb. But it would have to be like an organic thought he thought himself. It would have to be something maybe he's going down he's been in this path of communication with negative thoughts, or he's been feeding into that. That's just something that's natural to him, or something like that. And then this is just a thought that was perhaps his own, but it wasn't really, or something like that. Like, to me, I always imagine if you were actually going to be a force like God or the devil, you wouldn't involve yourself. You either would involve yourself absolutely directly, where you just appeared, you were like, hey, I got some things to say, or you would do it organically, kind of like, especially if you were like the devil, you'd be like slithering through, giving an idea here, give an idea there, maybe make this thing happen. Let them draw that conclusion. It's much easier if somebody thinks a thought is their own.
Sure. Well, and I guess that's something I never considered, is that maybe he didn't have a talk with the devil, but maybe what he told me was actually, maybe like an angel told him to tell me that.
True. Maybe it's the opposite. Yeah, maybe it's something good.
Yeah, because God knows our hearts. He knows what's in there, and so he knows how to communicate with us.
But I would sure hope so after this long.
Yeah,
he's had some time.
Yeah, and he knows you before you're even born. That's what the scripture tells us anyway.
Sure.
But yeah. So after that happened, that's when I started to veer more towards God and towards Jesus again, instead of these occult practices where I was like, I can travel wherever I want in my spirit. I can make things happen with my spirit, instead of trying to get into that magic stuff. And it's just been world changing, man. It honestly has. But not world changing in the way that I think people think it is.
How do you mean?
Like, I think that a lot of times, especially with people who just go to church on Sunday or whatever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people have this idea of God that that you curry favor with him and he gives you things, like,
oh, right, immediate reward.
Yeah, like if I pray to God, he'll give me a house or he'll make me rich.
Right.
Which
I've never had that happen to me. I've wished. I remember being young and wishing for stuff. I wish that girl in class liked me.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, God. It didn't work.
Yeah.
Which
right.
Whatever.
But that's like the weird thing, is that he doesn't work in changing us like physically. Like he doesn't like give us. He doesn't. Well, he can, and obviously because he's God, he can do whatever he wants. But once you know the character of God and you understand what he's been trying to do this whole time, you notice that the changes aren't about making your life better in the sense of, oh, I always have food on the table. It makes it better in the sense of, now I have compassion for people. Now I am more honest about my worldview. Escaping your own delusions is kind of my experience so far of what he helps, of the work that he does in us.
Yeah. I think that's something in my experience, because I won't go off on a long tangent on it, but if I could sum it up, I went through the phase of growing up and I didn't belong to any particular church. I was never baptized. I never got a dunk in the water. But I grew up in a super religious household, Christian household. Grew up with that. And then so it was something that my mom told me and it bothered me. She told me, like, cause I was like, I liked learning. I was trying to research a bunch of stuff and all that. And I just liked learning. Both about, like, I was pretty religious too then, and I wanted to learn about that, but I wanted to learn about other stuff. And then she told me, which is unfortunate, but that she's dead, and I haven't been able to like ask her about this later on. It'd be nice to confirm that or like have this discussion with her, but unfortunately not the case. But she said, like, watch what you learn because you might stray from God. And at the time that bothered me because it was like, well, if I learn more and that makes me doubt something, isn't that a good thing? Like, if you learn something that teaches you better, isn't that theoretically better? You should, like, if you're learning and you're progressing, it struck me as odd at the time. So I went more down like a angry atheist phase.
Sure.
Of just kind of, rejecting the idea, laughing at it and all that. And then after that, it's just kind of been like a slow, like, I don't know what you'd even call it. Just more like, I wouldn't call it a slow, incline into any particular religion or anything that you would call religion at all. Just more of a open-mindedness and understanding that how little I really know about the universe. How little I know about, first of all, how little I know about anything around me, but how little I know about myself at all times, So to me, it's more like, okay, there was a time in my life, rewind a little bit. If, you were telling me this kind of stuff, I'd be like, the fuck out of here. And I know more now enough to say, who am I to say? I guess, I've never involved myself in some of these things. I've never done any of that. But for me, it's just a little, it's just more of like, I don't know. I can't know at any given time what's going on. I don't know if any of this is true or if it's not. I don't know. So I guess for me, it's just a little tricky to... It's just that I've never experienced any of these things before. So, but I think that religion is, if you use it the way that it seems like you're using it or talking about it, or the way it's influencing your life, that's the good thing. Like, the angry atheist that was in me at one point in time would have been like, no, get rid of it all. And I sometimes I see that still on like social media. People are like, religion's a blight on this world and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I think it's just that you haven't reached this point of your life.
Yeah, you just don't know.
You haven't seen the good it does for some people. You're looking at the bad, but if you look at the bad in everything, then everything's bad.
Well, and it's kind of funny because, like, I mean, there's like this big roundabout way that this kind of circles into like one of the 10 Commandments, even.
Really?
Where God says, don't create an idol in my image.
Yeah.
But that's what we do. We look at the church and we say, oh, that's what God is like.
Which Catholicism, by the way, like, that's one of the weird ones. Like, it's weird that, because like Amanda grew up in a Catholic household and she would like, I remember her telling me about like all these saints and stuff like that, telling me about these people that they would like pray to at times. And she was like, well, it's like quasi praying, I guess. But I was like, but aren't you worshiping something else that's not God? And she was like, I guess. And I was like, I'm not a super religious dude, but I did grow up with a Bible and a dad that wanted to pound that stuff into my head. And I can tell you, the false idol one. Like, I think a lot of people in the beginning, like the first few commandments, they think like, oh, why didn't God say not to do this? And then instead he made like all these commandments about himself. I think it's just it has to be a translational, and maybe that is the religion that was brought about. Who knows? But I also have to think, probably it's a translational thing or a misinterpretation thing. It's like I don't really think in that, like you just said, in that context, like that sounds like, yeah, he wasn't saying like, I don't want you praying to anyone else. That'd hurt me if I saw that. He's just saying, no, it's just that you're gonna, like, there's people who are gonna have gods before them. You're gonna have a problem when you start praying to different things.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, the Bible also describes God as an angry and he describes himself as an angry and jealous God.
Which fair, like, this guy just comes right off the bat. He's like, nope, I get jealous. I get angry. And I'll fuck with you.
He's honest, bro.
Yeah, he just comes up right up. He's the most real dude we know.
Honestly, man, he really is. Yeah, and it's one of the other interesting things about like the Bible is it's so simple, but it's so hard to understand the simplicity when all you do is go to church, because like the church will give you 10 messages in one sermon and you're like, what am I supposed to hold on to here? But like if you look at like some of the patterns that emerge in the messages that are preached, you notice some things. Like in the 10 Commandments, the first 5 are about our relationship with God as humans. The last 5 are about our relationship with each other.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Huh. No, I really had not thought of it that way. Like, and I think that's where people see it, is they see, which is exactly what I was just talking about, was a lot of people feel like he spent too much time talking about it, like in the commandments. Like one I heard was somebody was like, well, why didn't he ever say don't rape somebody? And I was like, fair. He could have put that specifically in there. I think there's some things that, maybe didn't escape his thought, but maybe it's supposed to be interpreted in one of the commandments. Or it's one of those things where he's like, dude, you guys fucking amaze me. I didn't even think of that one. I didn't think that.
Yeah. Well, and it's also like, it's kind of like,
fucks.
if I was, I hate to be like this, but it's kind of like if I was God, I'd be like, do I really need to tell you not to rape someone?
I've had my parents tell me, like, when I like would do something fucking stupid, and they're like, I never thought I was gonna have to tell you not to do that, Tanner.
Yeah.
I literally never thought I was gonna have to tell you that. I'm like, well, here we are.
Yeah. And for some reason people get mad at God or say that he doesn't care because he didn't specifically say, don't stick your fingers in your mouth after you wipe your butt.
Dude, he'd have like, like I said, that'd be like I was going to say 100 commandments, but Jesus, to really regulate a human being with all the weird shit that pops into our heads, which we already talked about
yeah,
at length. Listen, he would have had an infinite number of commandments. It would hardly be commandments. It would just be like, you could get rid of the rest of the Bible and he would just have a rule book.
Which completely eliminates the point of like what the Bible was written for,
It's like, like a little kid will like hear a story, especially, and this is what I was going to mention too about churches, was I think a lot of it is just, it all comes across as kind of phony to me in a way that it just feels like it's just sing-songy, and then they're like the very basic things are talked about. Like some of the stuff I liked the most was some of the stuff the church would shun, but honestly I think would do more justice to the church. And I'll give you an example, and it's talking, you've probably heard about the theory about how the apple in Eden might have been like actually a psychedelic mushroom or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that one. There's different ones, kind of likened to that. I think there's a lot of religious folks who will not entertain that at all. Honestly, it turned me more on to that stuff than repelled me, in just a way that it was like, oh, it kind of adds like a realistic historical context. It doesn't, I'm not saying that just because they did mushrooms that therefore it eliminates all of God out of the rest of the Bible. Everyone was just high.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, it makes more sense that somebody like maybe, tried something that really opened their mind and made them think of like, it's like kind of like when you smoke weed, sometimes you'll get that, like, you're just overthinking stuff and you're like, oh, damn. That might have literally been the thing that happened. I don't know. To me, like, if you were talking about some real substance and maybe possibilities and how to interpret it, I would appreciate that more than let's sing a couple songs, the preacher tells me how I should feel about this or that. And fuck, who knows? I haven't been to church since I was a little kid. I have no fucking clue what goes on now. I assume it's about the same. But
yeah, I don't know either. I haven't really been to church in a while either. I dissected like 2 points from what you just said that I'd like to say something about.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Okay, so the first one is where you're talking about like church is just sing-songy, you know. Church here in America is the westernized version of like real deep-rooted practices of Judaism. Like every year they do a Passover meal where they come together and, you know, when they pray, they sing their songs. Like when they give a blessing for their meal, they'll sing a song. I couldn't sing it for you because, you know.
Sing it for me right now.
Yeah. But so they do that, and they do it all in remembrance of the story of the Exodus or whatever. And so in America, you know, since let's be honest, we are not the ones that have been directly involved with God throughout the course of human history. Right? That has not been European men, okay?
Like, I as a guy who's not super religious, I still will say I think the American experiment has been one that's slowly straying from God.
Oh, absolutely.
That's been our experiment. Let's be honest.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely. And so with our churches, we're trying to like copy Judaism, but the problem is that the practices of Judaism wasn't made for us. You know, like when Jesus comes, he separates the Jews and the Gentiles. And we're a part of the Gentiles. It's not that we aren't welcome in God's family, but we don't, you know, that's not our thing. That's not how we worship and remember. That's not what God expects of us. He never told us specifically that we need to do these kinds of things, but he did tell the Jews or Israel, you know.
Yeah, Israelites.
Yeah. So he did tell those people specifically, but he never told the rest of us. You know, the message that the rest of us got was just that, you know, Jesus died and he came back. He was resurrected, and that we're now welcomed into God's family again. You know, all of us are allowed to take part in this grand experiment that God is trying to fulfill in earth. And then, so that kind of went a little ways. The second one was about the theory about the psychedelic mushroom and the apple. And what I want to say about that is that a lot of problems arise when we get distracted from the message of the Bible in the details of what's written. Because these stories were written 4,000 or 5,000 years ago. Obviously, they didn't speak the same way that we speak now.
Sure.
And just the way that their language is written is so much more complex than we get when we read our English version of the Bible. You know, because like Hebrew letters, they have a lot of double entendres in their words and multiple meanings in their words because of the way their language worked. You know?
Well, and I will say just really fast, like just me like being around all this like people that speak Japanese and stuff, something I've learned with all these languages is that we always at first think about like what is the immediate translation to this or that. That's not the case. Like when they say something that it's like say you know, I say a sentence that means this, they'll say something that is the best equivalent to that in their language. But if you were to translate that literally into English, it's like, whereas in English I'd say I'm hungry, and then in another language it's like I have need of food, or I'm this or that. It actually like maybe literally means I'm without a substance or something like that. You wouldn't say that literally in English, but that's what it means in that language. So it's hard. Like there is no literal translation.
Yeah.
In most cases.
Unless you know Hebrew.
Unless you know it and you're so well versed in them that you can make such a great translation. But do you think back in those days when people were conquering each other every day, like one day there was a Roman flag, the next one there's like some other flag, and you're like, okay, I guess we're this now. I have to pee really bad.
Okay, yeah.
Are you capable of holding track of where we're at?
Yes.
Will you be the keeper of the time?
I will be the keeper of the time.
Oh, damn.
I'm also going to use the bathroom in this short moment here.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm back and I'm better now. I'm good.
Me too. I feel.
Yeah, no, I feel better. I'm like, okay.
Now focus time.
Yeah. Okay. So as I recall, I'm sorry, I'm just going to give myself the chance to see if I can remember as well.
Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about your 2 points was the going to church thing in, modern America, and then the mushroom one and translations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we were talking about the translations, which is just kind of like one factor about, the thing. But my main point is like, is the point of that story surrounded around the apple?
Well, it's hard, kind of, just in that there's a swap, right? Like at one point, life is this way. And then there's a mark that happens. There's like the obvious, like if you ask, most people, like when, like in Genesis, in this particular, portion of Genesis.
Chapter 3.
In Genesis chapter 3.
Sorry, that was rude.
No, I'm educated now, which of course, like I know Genesis will go on. It doesn't just focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking very early in Genesis, but there is a split where it takes on like the rest of the Bible. Like if that one moment, I guess, whatever it actually was, hadn't happened, would like obviously all the rest of the pages of the Bible would be different. So that's just where, like, you just in that you were asking, is that the focal point of the story?
I think
yes.
So yeah, I think that the question is not articulated properly when I ask it, because I was hoping for. I'll explain what I'm like the continuation of why I asked the question in the first place.
Okay.
When we look at what surrounds the humans eating the apple, that's the thing. That's the bigger story, right? Is Eve is in the garden and the serpent tempts her to eat of the apple. But is it the apple that really is the temptation for Eve?
Technically, no. It's the serpent, right?
Right. Because the serpent says, if you eat of this apple, you will know good and evil like God. And he's scared that you'll know that or whatever. And so that's tempting for Eve. That is the focus point. Because when we also look at like the repercussions, what God deals with, he curses Eve, he curses Adam, he curses the snake, but he doesn't curse the apple.
Okay.
So is it really important to know what exactly it is that led to the transition, as far as like what physical thing what action did they do? Like when we're talking about, well, maybe it was psychedelic mushrooms instead. That's not the point of the story that they're telling.
Mm.
And so it's just a distraction that helps to divide people in the church.
Okay, can I throw just a counter thing? And it's something that I heard more recently, and it's because of, and I've said it on the podcast plenty before already. Sorry, listeners. Midnight Gospel on Netflix. Have you watched it?
I have.
Did you?
Yeah.
Really? You did? Okay, finally.
Yeah.
I keep bringing it up, and then I go, did you watch it? And they go, no. I'm like, okay, well, I figured. But anyways, okay, so sorry, like now side tangent. We have to take this one. What did you think of the Midnight Gospel?
I thought it was enchanting. It was a little weird to watch because it's like really like gruesome stuff going on in the cartoon while they're having these philosophical musings.
And some of them are weirder than others. I mean, they're all weird, don't get me wrong, but yeah, no, definitely. It's a visual trip.
Yeah.
But man, there was a stretch there for like 3 days or something, and I stretched it between those days. And like I was on a mental journey kind of, because the guy that makes it, Duncan Trussell, I listened to his podcast, and that's where I'm actually headed with this. But my whole point now that I bring this up, those 3 days there, man, those were intense days of watching them and just listening. And sometimes I'd like watch it over again. And then like I remember like even on my second day or something like that, Amanda like came to visit. She was like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And I was like, "You got to watch this." And so, but anyways, of course, like the one that got me the most was like the last episode.
Sure.
The one with his mother and stuff, where he just so happened to like, luckily he had recorded that episode with his mother before she died of cancer and stuff like that. And I was like, man, that's one of those things like where I guess a podcast is beautiful. It'd be nice to get some of those people down. Even if people tell you,
that was a bad episode. I didn't like that one as much as I liked other ones. It's like, well, for posterity's sake and for the fact that I might outlive some people that I care about, it'd be nice to have that down. But anyways, what a fucking trip Midnight Gospel is.
Yeah.
For damn sure.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it. My whole point was that Duncan Trussell, how you made it, on his podcast, Duncan Trussell Family Hour, for those interested, he talked with this guy. It was a Satanist. That's how he identified. Anyways, and something they brought up was in this story of Genesis, the way he saw it was God was the villain and Satan was the hero.
Right.
And I'm sure you've heard this before, but where God was trying to keep them slaves and monkeys and Satan offered them consciousness, saying in this guy's view that it was only fair that God not hide this power or this ability from the beings he proclaimed to love. I'm just curious, like, what, like, there's those are two very different perspectives, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously. So what is your thought on that one, anyways? I don't have a stake in this, but it was one I was like, I hadn't really considered that before. So I can see where some people might stray off and be, Satanists or whatever, If that's the way you see it, then I suppose that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I think that there's kind of a couple things that I think.
Okay.
The first thing that I think is, just as God made humans, he also made the animals.
Mm.
And so, but the difference between us is that he made humans with his own breath. Right, like he formed us out of clay in the story, and then he breathed into us and made us in his image.
Mm.
And so I think that from the get-go, there's a misunderstanding on that part of it. It's sort of indignation, I think, to say God just wanted to use us as slaves, because that's never what he wants in the rest of the story of the Bible. He wants us to be in partnership with him. Because when he creates Adam and Eve, he says, okay, cool. Now tend to the garden. Work with me. Make this, because God's like, this place is good, but it can be better. And I entrust that mission to you.
Maybe that's what we were talking about earlier, that's where I was mentioning that humans will never be happy with perfection.
Mm.
I truly believe, like, in some ways I think that drags us down, but that was one of my main points, was that's honestly our best quality. Like, you can easily pinpoint to every animal and almost say exactly what their role is.
Mm-hmm.
But you point to a human, you're like, what is your point in being here?
Mm.
I literally think it's because perfection's never going to be good enough for us, and that's both our gift and our curse, because nothing's going to be good enough for us. Unfortunately, you're going to have to spend your life living that way. However, I think if you're wise enough to see the perks in it, it's because we always see how we can do better.
Mm.
There's always a thing that, and maybe, and if in this case, maybe like, wouldn't it be flattering if we just like did something and God was like, huh, what an odd choice. Well, that's interesting. Like, whether be it good or bad, like, huh. That's kind of flattering if you kind of turn the head of a god. You're like,
sure.
Whew.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like humans. We're just weird, sporadic creatures that love ideas. Who knows where ideas come from? But we love them, and we just do things.
Mm.
We have to do stuff.
Yeah, you get like antsy if you're doing nothing.
That's where I feel the most depressed, is when I'm not doing anything. When I feel like I'm not contributing to myself. I'm not contributing to the community. I'm not contributing to anything. I feel useless. And I feel like that's honestly a huge issue with our mental, like, that was something interesting when I talked to Mrs. Josephson in that interview, was talking about how the mental decline of like students and stuff like that, like, it's getting worse and worse.
Mm.
I think it's a lot of people being exposed to a lot of shit and also wondering, where's my place in it all?
Yeah.
And it's a terrifying thing. Like I said, is both our gift and our curse.
Mm.
So my whole point was just that I can see also where, like, that Satanist's view Okay, that's valid, but I also see on the Christian or the pro God side, I suppose, of yeah, but I think that also at the same time, it's our gift and our curse. But how content would we have been if perfect had been enough?
Yeah.
It's kind of, we were like taught that perfection isn't enough. Like, I don't think in that case it would have cursed us so bad. Because I guess if we really are God's children, then he really couldn't have cursed us that bad. If he does, who knows? I'm just pulling shit out of my ass here, making it kind of metaphorical and all that. But I'm kind of like playing with these ideas that you've kind of put before me, and I enjoy it.
Well, and so it is kind of interesting because God does, he does, so he does two things after Adam and Eve eat the apple. He gives the curse, and I'm not sure if he actually like sets some sort of like hex that says humans will always be like this now, or if it's just like, well, these are the consequences of your actions now, and you have to deal with it.
I'm pissed with you, Adam and Eve.
Yeah, you have, you disobeyed, time for a punishment kind of thing. But at the same time, he also provides the redemption in the same, however many verses it is. He says to the snake, he says, you'll forever writhe on your belly and eat the dust of the earth. And the descendant of Eve will, he'll stomp your head and you will bite his foot. And so that's like a huge foreshadowing of him already sending our redemption of Jesus Christ, right? He's saying, you guys now have to deal with the consequences, and I'm sorry, but you just have to. You made a choice, and you need to learn. But in that, he also says, but I'm not going to keep you guys held down. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to try again. And this is something that God does continually throughout the story of the Bible, like with the story of the flood, right? The whole world is sunken in debauchery, and so God sends the flood and only saves the one family. And in that, God says, I will try again with you. Well, people do the same things that people did.
Right, and clearly, just realistically, he couldn't have killed off everybody but a family. That would have probably reduced the human species to nothing. The Black Plague was a close call, and that one only got like 2/3 of our species. But maybe that's just like another, maybe like an allegory or metaphor for like something like like wipe it, like, 'cause, especially like I know there was a lot of like history of like people, like floods that happened in that area and stuff like that, and maybe it fucked with a lot of people who had a lot of stakes and bad stuff, or who knows, but
well, I mean, like you can kind of trace the lineage of Noah, because he has his 3 sons. What is it, like Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and they go on to start the different kingdoms like Assyria and Sumeria, and so the Bible, it doesn't focus on these other kingdoms being built, but they are being built in the background. Because what happens, because after Noah and the flood happens, God's like, all right, let's try again. And what's interesting is after that, he promises to never flood the earth and kill everybody again, right? Like he says, all right, no more genocide. That hurt me to see all my kids die.
Thanks, Lord.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
As the guy who might get drowned.
Yeah. So he throws us a real loving gesture there by being like, all right, you know what? I won't just kill you because you piss me off.
Thanks.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there is a complication where he says like the wages of sin is death, but that's the price you pay, Anyway.
Sure. I think that's where like for me a lot of the issues is kind of what we've already talked about, is kind of translations and things like that, or interpretations and things like that. Like, for me, I think it's not, I think one of the issues, and I can see where, like, back to, like, say, the apple, for example, I think God, or what I think a lot of, people who are religious get afraid of is they don't want to hear any other interpretation because they're afraid that it will, get rid of, it'll kind of nix out the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like, an issue is there are fair questions to have about it. Like, for example, is there an explanation? And this is why I think some people kind of veer more to the psychedelics, is why was there an apple, or why was there any trigger for us to be different? It sounds like a trap we were inevitably going to fall into, or somebody was going to. To me, that is one of my biggest questions with that one. It's like, that feels like a bit of a trap. Like, if I told you, like, if you were in a starving desert and I, like, put, like, a big old sign in a circle and it pointed to, like, water here, and I was like, don't you drink that fucking water, Cooper. Don't you fucking drink that water.
Mm.
And you were like, but I really want that water.
Mm. So
might not you take the water?
One of the interesting things that, there's this whole section during the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus tells his disciples, or not necessarily his disciples as in the 12 disciples, but all the people who were there listening. He tells them, therefore, when you pray, pray like this. And he gives them the Lord's Prayer. And the last section of the Lord's Prayer is, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. And one of the, I've been listening to this podcast by Tim Mackey where it's called Exploring My Strange Bible. And he, like, what I'm listening to specifically is him doing dissections of the Gospel of Matthew. And he breaks down each of the sections of the Lord's Prayer in this one episode and tries to show the almost the meta for its construction. And so in this end part, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. It's not saying, when we think temptation, I don't know. What do you think when you hear the word temptation? Like, how would you define a temptation?
Well, that's something I think I've learned about a little bit more in life. And this is kind of where, like, for me, what started to kind of open me up, originally what, like, kind of, like, especially led me down this downhill decline of, like, pure atheism was more like, I kind of studied more like philosophy and things like that, and kind of realized, like, to me, at that point, I was like, there is no inherent good or evil. It's just human interpretation of actions, which is fair. But I also, I kind of, like, veered off from that in realizing a little bit of, like, I guess, myself and humanity and how it all, with the temptation thing, for example, I'll say, it's one of those things where when I was younger, I imagined temptation just like the devil, like, doing that very thing, like hanging like a sausage on a stick. He's dangling in front of you going, woo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But a lot of it is a battle with myself. For me, it's not been, and it's fair if a person wants to interpret these things as a God and a Satan thing. that doesn't affect me. I don't care if someone wants to do that. That's fair, because we're talking about the same thing, really.
Sure.
I'm talking, for me, I know it's me. That's the way I interpret it. That's the way I see it. Is I'm falling into lesser urges. There's things that like, it's when you get down to, like, for me, a big one is I was gonna say laziness, which is that's the one I'm gonna choose. But I also understand if someone was like drinking or like substance abuse.
we talked about that quite a bit.
Fair.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go with laziness, which is a trap for me, because it's there's just there's a part of your brain that always wants the easy way out. Seemingly, it's like it's easier to just sit down. It's easier to, like, smoke some weed, sit down, and play video games all day long. And then when the weed starts wearing off a little bit, you smoke a little bit more. So what? You're not ascending to the person that you really want to be, and you know that. You know better. There's something inside of you typically that knows when. And maybe there are some human beings where that literally is, I guess, what they've always wanted. Who knows? Who can say? For me, no. I know that laziness, I kind of gives sway to the whole like 7 deadly sins, sloth, being lazy, not wanting to actually go out and bust ass and get something done or do something for yourself. So for me, that's like temptation is just giving into these like lesser urges in your brain that just want the easy way out. But the thing is that we've all probably been taught at some point in our life when we were younger, the easiest way is usually not the best way. Even if you happen to fucking pump out that assignment at the end of the, like, as soon as before the class starts, doesn't mean that was the best way to do it. You skated by at best. Doesn't mean that was literally the best you could do. And you know that, and you're aware of that. And usually for me, that's what I beat myself up for the most. It's sometimes, I do something silly or I do something stupid. I don't beat myself up for tripping. I don't beat myself up for, making any kind of little mistake. Like I misinterpreted something and I'm like, oh, okay, I made a mistake. Those are fine. Those are easy. You can laugh those ones off for me, myself anyways, in a minute. The ones that are the worst is when I know that I know better, which is, kind of like, some people, I remember my dad telling me when I was younger, like, it was more acceptable to like sin and not know better than to sin and know and just say, well, I'm not gonna. So for me, that's temptation. It's just falling, which is temptation. I'm not really like I'm not revolutionizing the term temptation. It's just temptation is 100% just falling for the shit that you know better. That's to me what it is. A lot of it is just falling for the shit you know better about and not doing anything about it and kind of just accepting that you'll just beat yourself up for it later. It's honestly, to me, the most negative thing ever. It's that temptation of the lesser urges.
I think that's really insightful. Like when we look at when Jesus spends his 40 days in the wilderness, when the devil comes, he tries to be like, if you're the son of God, turn these stones to bread and you won't be hungry, because he's in the desert. He hasn't eaten anything in 40 days. Like,
yeah,
this dude's hungry, You
go out there to fast for a while. After a few days, I'd be like, they could turn that stone to pizza.
Yeah, exactly. And so the devil's like, dude, you're hungry and you're the son of God. So you have the ability to turn these stones into bread. But Jesus is like, no, he's like, I know that that's not what I'm here supposed to be doing. He's like, man doesn't live by bread alone. He lives also by every word that comes from the mouth of God. So in that, he's kind of giving the sense that, maybe I don't want to speak for Jesus,
Of course, yeah. As Tanner Vance on the Tanner Vance Show, luckily I was blessed with having the voice of God on my side.
Right. That makes a podcast pretty easy.
I fucking promise that if I had the word of God on my side this entire time, I wouldn't have wasted the last 12 episodes. I'd have jumped right to I'm 13th, 14th, whatever, wherever I'm at. I'd have jumped right to this.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, none of us do.
But yeah, so maybe in this, Jesus is also saying like, I know that's the easy way, but I know that's not what's going to be beneficial for me.
No, absolutely. It's the same thing. We were, I fucking hate giving credence to this, but really, it's the same thing our fucking gym teachers were yelling at us. Like, if you half-assed your workout, you're only hurting yourself. You're not punishing anybody else but you.
Yeah.
But if you do what I'm telling you to do, you will literally benefit from it. They're really 0.001% of a chance that it will negatively affect you. And that's for like the one kid that's like unfortunately drew the short stick in life and that you just got to condition.
Yeah.
You just can't. But for the rest of us, it's going to be fine. Like, you're only going to better yourself. So just do it. That's absolutely a thing. And that's a huge thing for me. And I think it's more of a thing for people than they like to admit. I think a lot of people just, maybe that's one of the issues in the modern world is we're just more in our pursuit of trying to be more sympathetic and more, helping everybody. Let's be helpful. I think that we forget the tough love thing sometimes. And some people take the tough love too far, but Because also where I think Jesus was like, no, I'm not going to give in to temptation. He was also like, well, help the people for fuck's sakes.
Right.
So there's a balance there somewhere. And I think that's why, like, I drifted different. And, as I kind of got out of that angry atheist phase, I realized there's a lot of good that, like, comes from that, if that's what you take from it. But that's kind of like a lot of life. Like, if you take the good messages, it's just, it's harder to do on your own, I think. I think that if you're literally kind of like listening to the stuff you are and kind of like doing that, I think you might be on a better track to kind of accumulate that knowledge or kind of get that insight that
absolutely
you're dealing with a compilation of like 5,000 to 6,000 years of information where, human beings had different technology, but I don't really think they were really different. I don't think they were stupid, really.
Yeah.
They'd show us up in many things. We'd show them some things, and then they would show us up on things.
Well, I mean, because we're talking about people who literally invented languages. Like, how many people alive today do you know that can invent a language?
Yeah, and a lot of people, most of them were all like, consequence of their circumstance and language development and all that, but literally these people are around for like the harshest times of human history. I mean, don't think for a second that viruses weren't alive and thriving then. Don't think diseases weren't having their fun.
Yeah.
Fuckery was about then too, and human fuckery was probably plenty prevalent. Prevalent. I said prevalent. I take that back. Prevalent. So I just have to say, I have to assume that they weren't, no one was really stupid then. This is a compilation of information. Perhaps, maybe if I could give advice, if I could go back in time and give advice to anyone who's writing this stuff, I'd be like, be more specific. Also, maybe get a translator and get a few languages in there. I don't know. Make it like versatile for everybody. I mean, which isn't realistic for their time, but if I was back in the day, I'd love to give that advice.
I kind of think that the way that the Bible is written serves that way, because a lot, it's like 40% or something of the Bible is written in poetry, which poetry is a language that extends beyond a culture, because it vaguely paints these ideas of all the things that we face. And so, like the story of Genesis, right? Like, obviously that's poetic. God probably didn't literally create the universe in 7 days. I mean, hell, the first sentence of the Bible says that Earth already had existed when God started his stuff.
Really?
Well, yeah. Can I pull it up and read it to you?
No, you can. Absolutely you should, because I feel like I'm not doubting you, but I'm just going to go ahead and say, if that's true, I feel like that's something that a lot of people miss then.
It's so easy to miss, man. Here, let me go.
Okay, no.
Genesis 1:1.
Let's start at the beginning. I know that we, might have done us some good to do this before we've all been, but also it's perfect that it's where it's at. We got to figure out, because this kind of changes some shit, doesn't it? A little bit.
Kind of. Maybe I'm wrong though.
and maybe so. But if like just God showed up, hey, someone didn't finish the Sim World. What's up?
Sorry, I was not listening to that.
No, it's okay. I was just rambling anyway. So we're.
Oh.
Yeah, no. If ever there was a time to not listen to me, that was a perfect time.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So what it says is, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. That's Genesis 1 and 2. But it's interesting, because like we have this concept of the earth as like the globe. But in this description of the earth, it says it was without form and void, which is weird.
So what is that then?
So there's this interpretation that it says that the earth was wicked and wild or something. It's kind of untamed, because the people writing this, they're living in a desert land. Like you think of the Middle East, you think of Jerusalem. What surrounds it?
desert.
Yeah. So there's no, there's no vegetation. There's no water, I mean, there is water. Obviously, people are surviving.
I
So
was going to say, if there was absolutely none, they'd be fucked.
yeah. And
Sure.
it even says that the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters,
Mm.
So obviously there's at least water there. But without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. Like that's cryptic as hell.
Yeah,
dude.
that is really cryptic.
That's so cryptic.
So what is that then? He just walked up. Did he just? Who knows what that? I guess I don't know what that means, but I guess maybe that kind of does allude to the idea that like he walked. Here, I guess here's how kind of I imagine it. I know I'm not right. I'm not preaching here, but it kind of sounds like he just like walked up and found this place. He was like, "What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
This is somebody's unfinished Minecraft map. What's going on here?" And was like, "All right, I'll do you one better." Who knows if that's actually true? I'm just saying, like, that does the very idea of that is one that I've never heard before. But again, is another game changer a little bit.
Yeah, well, and it kind of like changes the whole first chapter and the creation story in general, because it's it's kind of weird. There's this setting the scene going on
Set
here
scene.
in Genesis chapter 1, right? Because chapter 2 we start getting right into the thick of the story, where there's Adam and Eve. But in Genesis 1, it starts setting the mood for what the beginning of God's story with humans is. And it's kind of funny because all it says is in the beginning, right? It doesn't say at this point in time.
Yeah, I have a specific date.
Yeah.
Like, most of our stories would start with, like, in 1634,
Right.
so-and-so did this.
Yeah, but these guys, when they crafted it, they were just like, when this story started, God created the heavens and the earth.
So it almost kind of, like, is a little bit of an admittance that this isn't the entire story. This is just, like, which isn't inherently a good or bad thing. It's just a thing to me. Like, and who knows if I'm interpreting that right or whatever. Who knows?
Well, and I think it's really humbling, too, because it's like, it's like people who are like the Big Bang Theory is the hill I'm going to die on.
Yeah.
We look at them and we're like, bro, chill. Like, nobody actually knows.
Yeah.
And these people are like, yeah, we don't actually know. But in the beginning of what we're going to tell you,
It's the same thing, but that's just exactly what I'm like talking about. Like, I was at one point in time that guy who was ready to die on the Big Bang Darwin Hill.
Mm-hmm.
I was willing to die and bleed out everywhere on that hill. And what I think I like best, well, I know I like best, is for one, the fact that, none of us fucking know. Yeah. Everyone wants to say that they know, but nobody has a know. Even the people who want to say, well, at least science has brought us this far. Science hasn't really taught us that much about where the world began. It's all theory. Mm-hmm. It really is. Like, I've tried to look into it to find the answers. It really doesn't give you any more of really a description than religion does. And I will die on that hill right for now.
Absolutely.
I will die on that hill. I don't care who has anything to say about that. I will die on that one. I'm glad I'm finally getting this one out because I admit that I don't fucking know. I'm a meathead and these things are just interesting to me.
Yeah.
But I will also say that I like it's one of those things I think when you're early on and I hit that like atheist phase, it's the interpretations of the Bible and just religion in general that make you upset. You're like, but I want definite answers. So you go looking for somewhere for answers. Like we just said, you don't find those answers.
Right.
They're nowhere to be found. You let me know when you find like answers, and I will die on that hill with you.
Right.
But I like the interpretation because nothing, like we just talked about all tonight, nothing is set in stone. We don't know anything. I have two people walking past the window that are a little goofy, but we're talking about they don't understand the seriousness of what I'm talking about. Anyways, the interpretation is best. I like that better because it's like, it annoys young kids having to hear the stories in the Bible. But at the same time, when you actually think about this stuff, we've been sitting here like dissecting the first like 3 chapters of Genesis, and that's it.
Yeah, just a very small,
such a small portion. And look where the conversation can go.
Mm-hmm.
honestly, this section, I will just say, as the guy who's behind the computer seeing the screen, this one is like getting to the point where it's as long as both of the other two portions combined.
Oh shit.
Because it's such, that's no complaint here from me. Content's great. This is just, it's interesting to me because this just shows you how much you can dissect from it and how much good conversation can come from it.
Yeah, when you don't take everything literally.
And you don't attack everything that you don't understand or that maybe you haven't thought of, or like you even throw in some talking about literally reading the Bible to me or telling me that this is chapter 3 or something like that. You don't be angry by those things. There's something, it's like anything else. Someone is teaching you something or they're just throwing something your way. All of this is just like, we're talking about life here, and that's what's so cool. Like, this is like the stuff we struggle to try to talk about this stuff through our weird languages, through trying to like connect with each other and communicate. But literally talking about the meaning of life and talking about like religion in general and just starting here seems to be a really good place to get people like fired up and talking about this thing. Unfortunately, some people take it negatively, but this is what I want to talk about, though. This is the stuff. Even if we don't reach a conclusion, I think especially maybe worst case scenario, Cooper, this shows where people are at, where their hearts are at. If you can talk about this stuff.
Well, and that's kind of the thing too, is that when Jesus would come, and one of the last things he kind of warned his people about before he was like executed on the cross or whatever, he was like, listen,
before he exited the game.
Yeah. And I guess he told us a couple times too. He was like, you can tell people the truth. You can have these open discussions, and you can try in your power as much as you can to just try and get people to listen to the message. But some people just won't. And that's on them. That's not on you. And he's like, when you talk about these things, it really does, like you said, it shows people what's in their hearts,
Yeah. If you're willing to talk about it and be open, it's one of those things that I've learned myself, is having gone through the phases that I have. And I've seen many physical representation. I've seen people who be that way, who are that way, who just are so set in their ways. It's don't be that person. Don't assume that you know everything. Don't assume that you know any of this stuff, because you really don't. And that honestly is kind of like I hate to get harp back on it, but it's both our gift and our curse. There's things that some people, you'll run into shit that you think, every time you run into something and you think you know something about it, as soon as you like kind of pass that first obstacle, you realize how much more there is to know.
Yeah, man.
And I'm sure that's where you're at with this learning and all that. And
well, absolutely. But one of the nice things, like, just to kind of sum up, basically like the whole thing I've been trying to get to, is that the conditions we're supposed to meet given by God are really simple. They're a very deep well to try and go down into,
Sure.
But they're very simple. It's 2 things. Love God, love your neighbor. Not literal neighbor, obviously, but, love each other.
Don't be sneaking over there loving on your neighbor going, I did what Jesus said.
Yeah, Jesus won't like that.
Yeah, Jesus knows better. You're lying to yourself.
Yeah. Yep. But, because that's one of the major stories in the New Testament, is that like the religious scholars who studied the Old Testament like religiously or whatever, they came to Jesus, and they're like they're thinking they're so smart. They're like, oh, we're gonna get him. They're like, what is the most important commandment by God? And they're probably thinking of like the 10 Commandments. But Jesus, ever the genius he is. You know,
Ever the son of God that he was.
yeah, so smart, dude. He's so smart. He looks at them and he's like, the first is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. And then the Pharisees are like, oh, okay. And then Jesus says, the second is just like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And it's like, well, hold on. We asked you to give one most important commandment. So why do you give two? You know? And I don't have an answer for you there. I just know that Jesus says that those are the most important commandments ever given. He says this sums up the entirety of the law and the prophets, you know. So I mean, and yeah, and that's what I was kind of getting about earlier with the whole like people they get distracted from the message of the Bible, which the message of the Bible is love God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself.
You heard it from Cooper Karp here, folks.
That's the totality of it, man.
Man, yeah. See, here's the thing. I could get into all of these discussions with you. I really enjoy. Like, I know that. Like, I don't know if you were hesitant to talk about any of this on here.
I was a little nervous. Yeah, just bringing up Jesus in general is nerve-wracking.
There's some things, you know, and this is what I liked when I was doing this better. Was I enjoyed the realism, because you either have to be yourself on this kind of stuff, or you can be fake. That's fine. But people hear it. People know the difference. Yeah. People hear truth, whether it's actual truth or it's your truth. They know it's typically in this kind of stuff, it's just always, you know, your truth. It's whatever the person talking, it's their truth. But if it's their truth, then it holds up better than if someone's trying to be a snake oil salesman.
Yeah.
On
just trying to feed you what you want to hear.
Yeah, you hear that shit. We've been fed it plenty in different departments. It's good to hear people who at least actually believe in their convictions, no matter what they are. And that's exactly what I care about the most. And that's why I've always, you know, enjoyed you. It's like, you've been like one of the most sincere people ever. Like, that was like a good thing. It was like, especially where, you know, we talked about me partying back in those days. It was a refreshing thing to hear from like you and Connor. That just, these two people that just showed up into my life during this chaotic time were two voices that just kind of were unapologetically themselves. I don't know that any of you. Do you think you're capable of being a person to just take on a new persona and start lying and start like?
Oh, of course.
I think you're capable of it, definitely. I think if we set off on a task to do that, you would honestly kind of do scarily good.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, it's not hard to pretend, you know.
No.
It's not hard.
I think it was just something that just like seeing, you know, you two, it was like a breath of fresh air and seeing two people who were just very genuinely themselves. And if I saw you all of a sudden changing, I'd be like, that's not Cooper.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
It could be a genuine change, you know.
That's another thing, too. Fuck, man. We could end up being up all night talking.
Yeah. I can't do that, though. I got work in the morning.
No. I would love at some point to try that, though, for content's sake. Just sit down. I'd like to have a few people, like, you know, we got our mixer here, have a few mixers or something, and like plug all these mics in, just have this whole like setup, get everybody in a circle and just get like the like hand-picked circle. And just get like the best hand-picked people I can, and just get a circle of people with microphones in our faces, and just see where it goes.
Yeah,
I would love to do that. And like, and not only that, the requirement is if you're going to participate, it has to go until the morning light.
Oh shit!
It's yeah. That one is an intense episode. It's not only an intense episode. It kind of takes a lot out of you. It's kind of a commitment. I think that'd be really fun. I'm kind of inventing that right now as I'm talking about it and babbling about it. I like it.
Yeah, I think it would be fun too, man. I think it would be.
I'll put that one together. Give me some time.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have a cordial invitation to said event.
Thank you, good sir.
So you heard it here. If he's invited. He has to be at this event that Tanner will put on. So, anyways. Let's finally cap this off. Yeah. I think we've done fantastic. You know, is there anything else? Any final concluding words you want to say?
Eat your vegetables. I don't know, man.
Eat your vegetables. Don't touch yourself too much. You'll go blind.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Cooper, thanks for doing this with me.
Of course, man.
I'm
It's
gonna thank
always
you
a
again.
pleasure.
Yeah, I will thank you again after this, but I appreciate all the people who have done this with me.
Mm-hmm.
And Cooper's the most important. Until the next guest come on, and I'll tell them that too.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect anything different.
All right. Say goodbye, Cooper.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody.
See you later.
Oh, damn.